Good evening, and welcome to tonight's episode of Wishful Mockery. This is going to be kind of the first proper um, episode of our main campaign. So we are looking at basically the story so far. So how it's gone is at the moment we have been just playing a home game with our slot, and we decided about a month ago that we were going to start recording it. Not for any other reason than the fact that we're stupid and we thought that other people might like to laugh at us. We've kind of wanted to do it for a while, so we just thought, you know what, stuff it. If we get 100 people that watch us, amazing. If we get more, amazing. There's two of us that have been theatre students, two of us that have played D&D for, three of us that have played D&D for God knows how many years. One of us who is kind of brand new to it and decided to start in with us, which was a stupid decision. So basically, if you're looking to learn how to play D&D, we might not be the people to watch. But if you want to see some people fool around, do a bit of D&D occasionally, and just have a good time with each other, then we are hopefully the channel for you. Um, by no means are we rules lawyers. I am the DM of this session or these sessions, and I just rule of cool for me. If that works, if you want to do it and you can explain how you're going to do it, that's going to be the best way. James and Josh are my kind of rule experts, so if I need anything from them, they definitely help me out with it. Jack is becoming very much a rule god, ruining paladins for everybody as
Oh
much
god.
more as they're gonna be ruined.
Why?
Um, so yeah, this is us. What this video is going to be, it's hopefully only going to be about half an hour long ish. Um, it's just going to be a literal story so far of kind of what's happened in our home games, just to get people a little bit caught up on. Sorry, my dog's tail is really distracting. Just to get people caught up on what we've done in our home game, all the characters that we've been through, not necessarily due to player deaths, although some of them were, and some of them were heartbreaking. Um, we've had a thing where we've kind of wanted to try some characters, and I've given people 3 free changes, where they can have a little experiment, retire a character, bring them back a little bit later. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure if there's anything that I've missed out, guys. Is there anything that I've missed out
Nothing
for this?
specific that I can think of.
Don't think so.
Potential sponsors soon, maybe, if we get there.
Ha!
But yeah, typical YouTube jargon. We're here. We're going to be posting pretty much, I think, mostly on Tuesdays, once we can get the YouTube thing to actually work for us properly. Our actual video posted a little bit earlier than it was supposed to. And we stream live on Twitch every, in very big inverted commas, D&D is a big scheduling issue problem, every Saturday. All of us have jobs, so we have to, abide by those, unfortunately. This is just kind of a hobby. So with that, it will be streaming Saturdays 7:30 on Twitch, and then uploaded on Tuesdays to YouTube. Come along and watch. We try and be fun, and yeah, it's gonna be story so far. It's gonna be an interesting journey. So, the story so far. Gods. Who are they? What are they? Questions mortals have asked since the beginning of time. Some believe them a benefit to mortals. Others, quite the opposite. But what if the gods were real? Their influence and presence a certainty. So tangible that they can be spoken to, bartered with, and even killed. What would a world be like if it was filled with the presence of the gods? and then all of a sudden, not. This is Teraann, the very setting of our story. Centuries ago, this land was ruled over by the High Elves. Their power was absolute, and they ruled with an iron fist. All races below them were on equal standing, but then elves, infinite in their wisdom and power, governed as though the wills of the gods was behind them. They created great machines of war, huge naval ships to patrol the seas, massive cities and great temples to the gods, all at the cost of the races below them. 1,000 years before our story begins, King Aethon Silverstar saw that what they were doing was damaging the balance of the world. The elves were the first created in the eyes of the gods. Thus, they must become the caretakers of Teraann. Seemingly overnight, the elves' attitude to the other races and governing changed. No longer was the Silver Star Kingdom going to be built on the backs of others forced into servitude. They were going to allow the other races to choose their own path and preside over their lands as they saw fit. Little did Aethon know, this would be Teraann's undoing. Teraann itself is a 4-continent plane. It exists separate from what most would consider to be the normal planes. And if Josh has the map up, which I think he does,
I do.
we have the 4 continents. Top left is Heras, now the main continent of the humans. Below that, we have Cosmodus. The smaller continent up in the middle is the High Elf home continent. That is Itathane. And the large continent that takes up most of Teraann is now named Sanctuary. How our story begins is what these guys came to know as they started the campaign. They were given free reign to create their characters. They could be any species other than human. Now, at this point, we didn't have Jack with us. It was just Josh, James, and Ryan. So we started as kind of just us. This was my first time ever DMing, and I've decided to go in with a homebrew world. I have obviously taken things from the D&D books, other sources, random bits of things that I've read. Critical Role is a big influence to me, so I have borrowed some of Mr. Mercer's stuff. Please don't sue us. We're new, and I love your content. Plain and simple. So with that, they created their characters. Who were your guys' first characters?
Mine was a cleric.
Oh God, yeah, we see that. Yeah, yeah.
I was
So
a cleric called
go on.
Quetzalcoatlus, or Quetz for short.
Quetz, what species was he?
He was a reborn Yuan-Ti.
Reborn Yante. And I asked them all randomly one day while I was at work to think of a way, an interesting, funny, or cool way in which their character was captured. They didn't know what captured them. I told them it was like normal-sized humanoid creatures, but they were hooded and you couldn't see their faces. So I told them to come up with an interesting way. Josh, can you remember how you were taken?
I can. I was taken in a very unusual manner of the fact that I woke up on the autopsy table of my home plane. They were unsure of what the hell I was because I woke up under the knife. They quickly locked me in a cage, and from there, I was sold, taken through various means, and awoke one day on the plain of Teraann.
Ryan, what was your character?
Gunpar.
And what was he?
So he was a very typical Goliath barbarian. Not a normal barbarian, no. Path of the Giants, because he's a Goliath, so why wouldn't he be? Big ice themed giant warrior type thing. not very intelligent, but heart of gold. And yeah, he came to the plane when he was hunting a displacer beast across the ice caps towards the north of the Sword Coast. Fell into a gap in the ice and then woke up on a boat.
He did. James, who was your first character?
My first character is now technically an NPC.
He is.
He is Nalister. He is one of the Fey Elf, the Eldrin. He was an artificer who worked with the dwarfs to perfect his craft. He got kidnapped in the classic fashion that he's bent over at his desk designing his next toy, and just casually a bag over the head from behind, yoink, screaming, "You got the apprentice, not the master!"
I'd have to admit, when you sent me your one, I did laugh out loud. It was very funny. So that was how those three were captured. When we started the session, we went through all this, kind of introduced characters, that sort of stuff, and I gave them a brief description of. They all woke briefly, groggily, in the shadow of what looked like a portal, being dragged through by people hooded. And then as they were going through, I think it was Nalister that was the last one to conk out, and just felt this awful wave of like being sick and then blackout. They all woke up aboard. If I can get you guys, sorry, I do have all the like old maps and stuff. I don't have the old prison ship, unfortunately. That one has gone. But they woke up aboard a prison ship, at which point they were met by an elven farmer, a tiefling, a bugbear, and a little goblin.
And human.
Smile from Ryan. And a human. Oh my god, I almost forgot about him. And a human.
Oh, we didn't.
No, you didn't.
We didn't.
So, this human's name was Ernish. He kind of greeted the party to begin with. A very well-to-do kind of gentleman. Had like a high-collar trench coat, like thick glasses, kind of slicked back hair. The goblin was very childlike. He was very young, really kind of naive. He was initially told that he had won a prize, but in fact he had not. The elven farmer had watched her entire like village get raided, her family killed. She was beaten badly, and she had her tongue ended. Don't know how vivid I want to be with that description, considering this is just an intro video. So she wasn't able to talk. They were very clearly on a ship, and they got a little bit of lore that basically who had captured them were humans. They needed them for something. And Ernish, they gave him a question of like, well, hold on, you're human, why are you here? And Ernish, turns out, also isn't from the plane of Teraann. He was captured the same way they were. The ship gets to where it needs to go, and they all get ushered out onto the deck, and then off the gangplank into this village. This village, the buildings in there are practically a pristine white, very Tudor-esque buildings. Think of, if anybody has played any of the Fable games, like Fable 2 style buildings, but all basically pure white. The village, as they are walking through, is entirely human population. Everybody is happy, and over in the distance they can see a fortress that they are being marched to. This is where, in classic D&D faction, the players decide to interact with an NPC that I had not planned for. Thought of a name on the spot. That name was Arcus. This man was at the head of the column. He was a mage. And they asked him some questions. He gave them some very vague answers. And an immediate hatred was kind of governed.
Yep.
From this, they've birthed one of the best characters I think I've ever created. So this is brilliant. They are marched up towards the fortress, at which point they see, if this is going to change for Josh, I'm not entirely sure if it will, and how well it will change.
Just changed.
Perfect. So at which point they are marched up to this fortress. They have they come up, they walk in, and they are presented with a headsman block. The main captain of this fort, I'm not sure if he's there on the map. I can't quite see him. Yes, I can. There he is Commander Tarkin. He is a rather gruff, elderly gentleman. He then decides to start putting them all to the sword. They start with the elven female. She gets her head lopped off. Then the bugbear basically just goes, well, go on then. Bugbear walks up. As the headsman swings down, the bugbear stands up, pushes the headsman aside, and this mage that they had interacted with, Arcus, snapped his fingers, and the bugbear just disintegrated. At which point, out of the D&D characters, these guys started to panic because they were like, oh, he can snap his fingers and just kill someone outright. So that was funny to watch. Bearing in mind, all through this, I'm shaking like a leaf because it's my first time doing anything like this. And I was like, I'm going to get this wrong. This is going to go horrible. Oh my God. DM first nerves. It always happens. Next one to get chosen is Nalister. And Nalister is chosen by Tarkin. Nalister walks up, attempts to teleport. Unfortunately, it doesn't go through. The headsman's axe is about to come down, and they get White Dragon Ex Machinid.
Can I point out that this entire time, Nalister's trying to be selling his soul? I can make magic weapons.
He is. Yep, he's trying. That was Nalister's kind of go-to way to get out of things, trying to barter with the fact that he can do stuff.
Nalister is a survivor no matter what.
Very, very, very true. Forgot to mention, they are all bound with what looks like just rope. However, these ropes, if they try to activate anything in terms of magical effects, spells, anything like that, they take damage, which Gunfar did find out because he tried and got hurt.
Gunfar doesn't have magic. Gunfar just bit the rope.
He did, and it didn't work, and it shocked him. They get Dragon Ex Machinid. This dragon is a white dragon, and it had a rider. The rider on back was full clad knight armor, couldn't see face, red armor, and the dragon spoke to Tarkin. The dragon's name is Mirathrix. She basically said, what are you doing? These people are people that we have captured for a purpose, and you're about to lop off their heads. You're an idiot. Tarkin immediately starts groveling to this white dragon and prepares them for transport. They're being transported back to the humans' capital. So he walks them inside. They have a little chat. They get a chance to ask questions. What were the, like, you just ask basically like, why are you here? What is it you're needed for?
Generic,
That sort
what
of
the
stuff,
hell's
wasn't it?
going on type of question.
Yeah, because these guys knew nothing coming into the campaign. I gave them no backstory. They were basically told that the portal into Teraann, there is one. The portal that comes in, so basically a plain gate, has shut off. Nobody can leave Teraann. People can still kind of come through-ish, and there are other ways that people get into Teraann, as we'll discuss later with portals. But nobody can leave. So what they need is, the humans believe that if they can get people from other planes and use their blood in some form of ritual, they can reopen the plane portal. So that's what these guys are being used for. They are kind of the last ones that have been brought through. At which point, the last person that was going to be executed was Gib, which the party weren't happy with because they had already developed a connection to Gib, even though they were there for like
5 minutes?
10 minutes. Yeah, 5-10 minutes. And the last thing they saw before they were marched in was Gib about to be executed. However, while they're asking all these questions to Tarkin, they see two guards run past the window, and one of them like yells, "Get back here, you little shit." At which point they thought, maybe Gib's alive. This could be interesting. Then there's an explosion. Things start happening. Tarkin leaves the room, and they are left in there with one mage. One poor young mage.
He lasted what? 30 seconds?
Against 5 of them. They don't have their weapons. Don't have their armor. That's in a chest in this room with them. As the mage looks out the window and he allows some of them to look out the window, bear in mind, young boy, very naive, they can see that the fort has come under attack by other people. They can see a laurel leaf kind of thing with two swords that cross as an insignia on the back of the capes, but not being from here, they have no idea who they are. However, the armor does bear some resemblance to elvish armor, which, thanks to Nalister, they managed to glean through a perception check. At which point, something happened. They murdered the fucking mage.
Okay,
Absolutely murdered him.
the something that happened was Gunfar didn't have his weapons, but Gunfar is a weapon.
That was it.
And-
He beat a motherfucker.
I coined the phrase "hit a motherfucker with another motherfucker."
Yes,
Yep.
which you did do.
Yes.
As they killed this guy, Teraann comes back in, and he walks in, closes the door behind him, looks, and sees that they've all basically kind of started to grab their shit. I allowed them to grab either one weapon or one piece of armor each. They gave Teraann an opportunity. In fact, they gave him, it's like 2 chances, wasn't it? 2 or 3?
He
Told him a
should
number of
have
times.
surrendered, not
Yeah,
on
they
us.
told him a number of times to surrender. Teraann chose not to. And this is where I designed things fairly poorly, because 5v1, I thought, oh, Tarkin's going to be amazing. Tarkin's dice didn't work out very well. He survived 2 rounds. I think he did about 10 damage overall.
Arkin gave a level 1 character plate mail.
Yes,
An
Tarkin did.
nicer character.
Yep. And he gave
And then that is where,
cleric a penchant for turning people into black goo.
yes, because you
Toll the dead.
you told the dead did him. But that was where Ryan coined the phrase beat a motherfucker with another motherfucker, because he threw the dead mage at Tarkin. So that was quite funny. They didn't want to stay around to find out what the fuck was going on outside. They had a little look in a bedroom that they'd found and found a trapdoor. That trapdoor led down into something, basically a little supply closet. They proceeded through there with Urnish. Meanwhile, Urnish is being kind of helpful-ish. They had no reason to distrust him, even though they've just learnt that the humans are the ultimate kind of bad guys of this world and have started an absolute genocidal war against all the other races. They're moving through this little kind of underground castle type thing, which over their exploration of it, where the frick is it? There it is. They're going through rooms. They do get attacked by, and thank you, Mr. Mercer, they do get attacked by shade creepers. A few of them, they're downscaled slightly because these guys are only level, I think you were level 2 at this point, weren't you? Because that was first session, and then you did second session in here.
I think we were level 2 at the end of this, but
No, because first session ended when you got into that.
We
Cupboard.
leveled up at the end of this when we climbed out the top into the cave and had the long rest. Because that's when I unlocked my infusions.
Okay, so you were level 1 going through this. They got through most of it, and then in the room at the top right, they were searching through, and there was a book. That book was called
Playing something Codex.
the Planewalkers Codex, I believe.
Planewalkers Codex. Thank you very much. Yes, it was. So that book was called the Planewalkers Codex. At which point, Quetz tried to take it up, but it wouldn't. So Ernest was like, "Look, let me. I can release the spell around it." And they were like, "Yeah, not a problem." Ernest does, closes the book, turns around. Quetz goes to take it, and as he does, he goes through Ernest and the book, and then sees stood up at the corner. Ernest is there with the book, now kind of changed form. Still human, still exactly the same. However, he's wearing a glove over his left hand, and the right eye of his glasses is completely, like, the actual lens is just black. takes the book and is basically just like, thank you. This is exactly what I needed. And dimension doors out. They're all going, motherfucker, why didn't we see this? We knew this. Why didn't we do anything? They then go to leave. They get attacked by a ghost, which they kind of placate. Due to, it was Quetz being awesome. Just like, no,
Quet's
please.
being an
Stop
undead
it.
helped.
It did.
You
It
could
very
almost say
muchly
we
did.
connected on a spiritual level.
Oh, good God. They then left and rested in a cave for the evening. They leveled up. They then thought about a plan of what to do. While they were walking through the town at the beginning, they did hear that there was a goblin camp nearby that had started to bring down airships. So they thought, we'll try and find that. We'll see if we can steal one, get somewhere. They went. They fought through some goblins, little on sentries, and they came across a downed airship. The downed airship was here. If this has changed over for Josh, I'm not entirely sure if it has.
It has. I'm jumping back between the maps and the videos.
Perfect. They entered from the south side of this, saw this airship, not grand in scale, but enough, with a elven woman trapped in a cage, surrounded by goblins. The party jumped to her aid, and there was some tree climbing antics, I think, from someone. James teleporting into a tree.
Yeah, because I was like, I'm not going to get stabbed. I'm just going to shoot them.
Gunfar running at the ship and trying to climb it.
Succeeding to climb it.
Succeeding to climb it. I think throwing one of the goblins off as well, didn't you?
Yep.
Yep. And then Quet's just beating the shit out of people with magic and holiness. You freed the captive, which turned out was the captain of said ship. Her name is Zathara. You managed to one of the engines, the float stones that make these ships fly. You managed to hook one of the engines back in. That then gets it working, and you take off and leave. She says, but it's probably best if we go back to our capital because you're the first people from another plane that we've rescued, potentially. She lets you know that the people that were attacking the fort were people that she had helped transport, along with a bunch of other ships, but her one was the only one that was kind of survived-ish. What else did she tell you?
She gave us some
Magic
basic background on the world as well.
She did,
She
yep.
was
That
the first
magic
big lore
had.
drop.
She was the first big lore drop, actually. Tarkin wasn't. He didn't really give you much because he wasn't going to. She dropped lore such as pretty much all the other races have lost the ability to use magic. There are very select few people that still have magic capabilities or are born with magic capabilities. Humans, however, have it in vast amounts. Most of them are born with some form of magical or innate magical ability. This was due to a war potentially with the gods. Their gods, they are now monotheistic. Don't learn the name of that god at the moment, but they know there is one. The other gods seem to have just kind of gone and left, or are still around, are dead. There's so many different conflicting things of what has actually happened to them. She drops things that the humans are going on to a genocidal war. They have been told basically that they need to kill everybody and then spread out from that plane and do the same thing everywhere else. There's a lot of back and forth. Zathara is a very lively character. She doesn't take any shit. She threatens to throw people off the boat multiple times. And Gunfar tries many a time at seduction, but not in a good way. Just kind of lays on his bed naked.
And that wasn't an attempt at seduction. That was whatever happens, happens.
That sounds like an attempt at seduction to me. A bad attempt, but still an attempt.
I disagree.
Attempts are attempts. So, it was then an amount of days travel back. What did we come across?
You came across Alistair's undeniable ability to try and break and rebuild every magical item he comes across.
Very true. However, backtracking very quickly, sorry. As they were leaving, a certain person that they thought was potentially dead wasn't dead. As the ship was about to take off, little Gib came running in, and they chose to rescue him. So they now have a little pocket goblin who they love, and who they have threatened me with if I ever hurt as DM, they will kill me in real life.
I know where you live.
So yeah, I'm kind of being held by the balls on that one. So that's gonna be fun.
You hurt Gib, we hurt you. Those are the rules.
Very true. So they did a couple of days travel. It was clear skies. They had a small storm to deal with. There was an open ocean thing. And then finally, there was an encounter with some Skirath hunters. Something which nobody in the party had actually ever faced before. Because again, something else borrowed, not stolen, not copyrighted, something borrowed, Mr. Mercer, from
With
Critical
extreme
Role.
prejudice.
They were an amazing monster when I watched them in their campaign 3, and I thought, actually, that could work. I'm using airships in mind, so... And I tried Googling airship encounters, and I was like, Google's fucking shit. So, borrowed, because I thought, amazing. Probably didn't use them correctly. Have now been refined. They fought. They almost died. Ish. And they got back to the Elven capital, which is, if I get up the picture, a mahoosive tree. Kind of on the nose, but still works. So as they're flying through the mountains, this is what they see, but this tree is humongous. So with that left-hand side, pretty much where that little kind of spire thing is, up the trunk, that is where the city is. The city itself lays on the trunk. It is built like a regular city. Again, think Fable. That's kind of the aesthetic that the cities go for around here. Excuse me, my God.
If you
And
can't
again.
tell, Perry likes Fable.
I do like Fable. Fable is a bloody good game. So they fly in, they land at the skyport, and Zathara gives them the thing of, look, maybe go see the Lord General. He will be able to give you some things, help you, but get some rest for this evening. Because it was still recovering from the Skirath Hunter attack. They went to an inn. They met a lovely, lovely barkeep by the name of Sinead. Southern American-ish accent, if I can do that one well-ish, kind of, maybe, sort of. Quite flirtatious. Did you take Gib that time?
No, Gib stayed with the ship at that point.
Gib stayed with the ship because Zathara was like, I'll keep him here.
Because she thought they might attack him in the city.
She also went shopping with him.
Yes.
She took him shopping because you guys gave him like a gold piece. And he was ecstatic. And then she was like, I'll give him the rest. It's fine. She grew to love him quite quickly. You then, I think you stayed the night there. Then in the morning, you went to see the Lord General. So you were taken up to the upper ring of the city. The city itself is divided into 3 rings. I'm not sure if this is going to pick it up very well, but that is basically the city. 1 ring, 2 ring, 3 ring. You were taken up to the upper ring through a series of teleporters of like trees. You basically say where you want to go and it will take you. It's an old tech and magic that has been imbued into the city, cannot be recreated. So you end up going up there. You get to the Lord General's mansion. You are let in. You are seen by his... I don't know, what's the word for like a head servant / somebody that's still really respected?
Head of the household, basically.
Yeah, his caretaker, basically. Valet. Valet? No, valet's what parks your car.
His Alfred.
Pretty much, yeah. A orc elderly woman by the name of Winona.
She's great.
She is great. She is wonderful. She takes you over to his external balcony. So the back of his house backs onto the upper ring's wall so he can overlook the city from his balcony. He likes sitting out there. It's pretty much where he does most of his meetings. So you are taken to here. You are met with a Leonin with a red mane, elderly-ish. He's got kind of grey furs around him, a couple of battle scars. Still wearing armor, but it's plate armor that's more ceremonial. Kind of cape-ish thing, big broadsword on his back. He talks to you, asks you where you're from. You have some chats with him. Things seem to be going okay. He asks you basically if you want to get a little bit of revenge or if you want to help out, of which all of you, thankfully, decided to go, yes. Sounds brilliant. What can we do to help? And he says, first, a test. And then he rushed at you. Sword drawn. At which point I ended that one, and you guys were like, motherfucker, why? Best reaction I think I've had from you from the entire campaign so far. We then started the next session. You beg to differ?
I beg to differ, but it's a bit later on, so I shall not spoil it.
Okay, keep it in your head, because
Yep.
I'm interested now. We started that session with the fight with the Lord General, Zadar. Things were going well. He bitch slapped Quetz.
I got knocked out in 2 rounds of combat.
He did.
And
He
I was
did.
built as a frontline cleric, and he just went,
Yeah.
no! Go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep!
It was literally a Tony Stark versus Hulk moment.
Except,
Um,
I wish I was as strong
Was
as
it?
Hulk.
Oh,
No, that would have been Gunfar.
Gunfar's the real Hulk.
well, yeah, true, actually, yeah. Gunfar, we then realized that Gunfar had a penchant for fucking grappling shit.
Bear hug.
Bear hugged everything.
Literally.
This becomes a kind of trope with Gunfar.
But it was effective.
Nalister just standing at the back going, pew, pew.
It's a
Trope
high
with Nalister.
damage fucking gun, and I
It
have
is.
infinite ammo.
It is. It is. At this point, I think you guys were like level 3, level 4-ish.
Level
Can't
3
remember.
at this bit.
I think it was level 3. The fight continues, and eventually Zadar gets to the point where he goes, "You've proven yourself. Well done. This is enough." He then offers you... Now, this is where it gets confusing. Was it here that he offered you the mission to help with the disappearances?
Yes.
Yes.
We did the disappearances.
Didn't he offer us a choice?
Yes, he offered us...
Help with the disappearances, or it was like a really random, shitty mission?
Yeah, we chose the disappearances.
Yeah, because the other one was like a genuine kind of like... I just threw it in there to be like, you're not going to pick that one. Help with the disappearances is where I want you to go. So you jumped on that one. You were told that... No, you don't. You were told to go pick up some equipment. And this was where you guys met one of our wonderful shopkeepers.
Wonderful's a broad term.
He is wonderful.
He's something.
He's something. A gnomish, elderly, very elderly gentleman by the name of Olive Pecker. He is the store owner.
Rum.
He is the store owner of Olive Pecker's Purveyor of Goods. He prides himself on being able to get anything anybody wants. They walk into his store. He's not the nicest of gentlemen. He's a little bit rude. He has a very short temper. But he's also a pleasure to deal with. They barter with him. He has some rules for his shop. Can anybody remember the rules?
You touch it, you buy it. No bartering, and
No bartering.
or
Unless he says so.
unless he says, "Well, no." He just said no bartering, and then I tried to barter, and he went, "I like you."
He did. So you touch it, you buy it. No bartering.
I want to say no refunds, but that's 2 on the nose.
No.
All I remember is Alistair was allowed to touch things because he could find out what it was for Becca.
Yes, that was great.
Yeah, could find out what it was for Pekka. That was it's just you can identify. Okay, you do it. You can judge.
I love Pekka. I miss Pekka. He's an ass, but he's our ass.
We'll see him in the first session back if you guys go to the shop.
Yeah. He gets to meet.
There was a third, but do I have it written down? I don't think I did write it down.
Here's where we go to our resident librarian, who wasn't here at this time. Never
Jack
mind.
wasn't here at this point.
To clarify, Jack is the unofficial librarian because that man's notes are like an encyclopedia.
Mm.
I tried my best.
Oh, you succeed, good sir. See, I do it all from memory, and Jack's like, no, I will record the written history of this world.
So they had that conversation with him. They got some supplies, and he gave them a little bit of information that the disappearances were happening in the lower ring of the city. Gave them a little map, told them where to go. Next session, they decided to walk down there at the point where they were just starting to investigate / clean up about the last disappearance that had happened. The last disappearance was
A young girl.
a young girl, 11-year-old girl by the name of Elise. Her mother, Teraann, is a half-elf woman. They were met by two kind of what we would consider in real life like detectives. However, they are called dyads. They're special investigators that kind of help with situations like this in cities throughout the Silver Star Kingdom. They had Oran Tal was a halfling, and Girth Stubtooth, who was an orc female. They were the dyad. She was quite brash and a bit like, well, you're dumb. And he was very kind, very willing to help, willing to use the party to get some things done.
A bit more pragmatic.
Bit more pragmatic, definitely. They went and had a word with the mother, at which point above table they were like, she did it. Which was hilarious.
I wasn't. I had an inkling, but I didn't. Okay, Era did say it. Never mind.
There were some nice touching moments in terms of role-playing, which I will add now. These guys, when they get into it, they are very much willing to be like, right, let's fucking role-play. And I'm like, oh God. To the point where a little bit later I will mention something that almost made me cry a little bit.
Oh.
Because I didn't expect it, and it was
Yes.
fucking amazing. They then got the lead from somewhere else because James, weren't you? Nalister was doing some
Nalister
detect magic-y thing, wasn't he?
Magic is a ritual, so he just kept running around like a headless chicken.
And he found footprints that led. You guys went up to the girl. No, Nalister went up to the girl's bedroom,
I stayed
found
with the mother.
footprints. You were just chatting with her and drinking tea.
It was good tea.
It was good tea. You found footprints that went to the door and then stopped and then continued outside. Or something like that. You then followed them to a house, at which point the house was kind of ransacked. Can you remember what it was that you found?
All I remember from that house is finding the fire dagger.
Yes, you found a dagger with a fire enchantment. Can anybody remember what
And
Nalister
a
found?
book and a research laboratory on bats.
Basically a bunch of taxidermy bats and animals, kind of wolf-type things, dogs, and a book based off of kind of like supernaturally type creatures. At which point, dawned on them, oh shit,
It's Twilight.
maybe this is a vampire. I let on nothing. I was like, okay. So they made a plan. They were going to stake out the area and use
Stake out.
Quetz as... Oh, that was unintentional. I'm sorry. They were going to use Quetz as bait. He was going to hide his armor, dress like a hobo, and act like a hobo. While
Not that
Nalister
he
and
had much
Gunfar...
practice.
Exactly. While Nalister and Gunfar sat on a rooftop, watching and listening. Gunfar got impatient and uncomfortable. Nalister was dealing with everything. They'd gone to a place called the Midday Inn, which was run by the sister of Sinead, who was in the Midnight Inn. Her name is Autumn. They told her to go and stay with her sister. They then did their stakeout. And this was my first kind of getting in to try and explain something and create a little bit of tension. And I think it worked.
You
I think
did.
it kind of had you a little bit like...
With the
"Ugh."
whole doorway thing, that was... You twat,
So,
is all I will say.
Quetz is walking around. I'm trying to remember how this went exactly. Quetz was walking around. Everybody else was trying to listen for some stuff,
I
and
posted up in a doorway, and
Yep,
then I
you
went,
posted up in a
okay,
doorway.
it's a couple of hours in, I'm going to walk. And about 30 seconds after I left the doorway, that door opened, and there was noises around there, almost as if like something had tried to...
you went back to the door and you knocked on it, but you got no response. You then heard footsteps coming up, and then they stopped. You then thought, okay, I think it's about time that I maybe get out of here a little bit.
And I did the holy symbol to the the lay on
Yeah,
hands from the
you did-
Warhammer cutscene.
You did that cast thing around you to detect something, didn't you? But it didn't get anything.
It was just outside of the range of detect undead.
Detect undead. And then you all heard a scream from the top of the street, at which point Quet in his ear just gets, nice try, in a very kind of creepy ass voice. It was just, what was it? It was like
You're
a...
giving me fucking chills right now because I'm
was,
remembering that. Oh.
It was just a, nice try. And then
Yeah.
it was gone. Quet's tried to do something, but there was nothing there.
It was too.
They
clever.
all then, you and Gunfire and Nalister had to like slide down the fucking roof.
And no, Gunfer did. Alistair and his class, they went, teleport.
Yeah, Gunfire was like, you successfully did it though, didn't you? You didn't hurt yourself.
Gunfire was like,
Oh, I-
ODST drop. Woo!
Yeah, Gunfire was doing like flips and everything. It's crazy.
I think he rolled a nat 20 on his acrobatics to land it, is why.
Yeah,
I think so. So you then run to the site of the Scream, which is just outside of the Midday Inn, where you see the two guards that were posted there completely ripped apart. And a woman that just it ran down that way. You followed it down the alleyway. And you came to a sewer grate that was kind of just lifted-ish. You all decided to follow. You got down there. And you came across this.
Let me change back over. I would like to say at this point, during his conversation with the mother, Quet had made a vow to her on his holy symbol, on everything, to bring back her daughter to her. So just bear that in mind for the next section.
Yes, you did. This was the first kind of thing where it was like, I wonder how the party are potentially going to deal with a failure.
It fucking hurt.
Yeah, I bet it did. So they come down, they find the little girl. She tries to be deceptive. Like she'd been captured. Wasn't fooling anybody, unfortunately. She attacked. She got helped by a couple of shade creepers, and she was fairly strong. She didn't necessarily do a lot of damage to them. She dragged it out. It was the
Gunfer went
shade
down.
creepers, I think. That did you?
Gunfire went down twice.
Yeah.
The only reason he got up is because I had
Damage.
a little homunculus that could heal from a distance.
Because
It's like, no.
Oh,
I
shit,
couldn't
yeah.
get to him to heal it because I was on the other side fighting a shade creeper as well.
Yeah. So it was my oh yeah, this was my first one where I was like, oh shit, maybe I've actually done a bit too much. Maybe I've not balanced this
You
correctly.
say that, but it was only, the melee people who took any damage.
It was.
Alright!
Nalister was just all over the place because he just. Ugh.
Nalister was cool. He was long range
Yeah.
artillery support.
Oh yeah, I fucking love Nalister. He's
In
great.
the heaviest armor as well. Like, fuck you, Piggy.
Yeah, so if you got fucking engaged, it was like, well, you're not hitting, so good luck. At which point they did What happened to kill her? Did Gunfire push her off?
No,
I think I.
no, Gunfire cut her in half. Oh,
Now
he's
let's
trying to cut her in
trying
half.
to push her.
Yeah, Gunfire got the final blow.
Revenge, bitch.
Yeah,
Because I tried to be really smart and do the Fey teleport so I could push her down the hole.
except
But she passed. So
No.
Gunfer went, alright.
she failed, then passed the deck save to pull herself back out of the hole.
That was it.
And we were
And
like,
then
we've
Gunfer went,
won!
"Fuck this."
No, we haven't!
And then it was just like, no. So that happened. They were like, oh shit, we couldn't save her, and it was a real moment of like, oh,
It killed Quetz because he'd not been able to save this poor innocent child.
yeah. So it was a bit of a touching moment, and then somebody else walks down.
This motherfucker.
Long-haired, elven type figure walks down very well spoken, very well dressed. The party kind of usher themselves around to him. He tries hold person on Quetz, and Quetz successfully passes.
Yeah, I spaced that
Which-
motherfucker down.
Surprised the creature
And me.
and Quetz.
And me.
They kind of realized that maybe this was the puppet master behind everything. He didn't give a name. Just that, unfortunately, the young girl that he had turned could not control her thirst. She was not the only one, because the disappearances had obviously happened before she was turned. But she was an unfortunate mistake. The party didn't really take that as an apology. And it was very much, I think they're going to try and attack him. And then I was like, are you sure you want to do this? So I gave them an out, and he left. He bamfed himself out.
Quetz did try to hit the motherfucker.
Quetz did try to hit the motherfucker, failed.
He would never allow something like that to go unpunished.
No, which was perfect. I'd
Quetz
now
was very
created a
righteous.
sense of, I'd now created a sense of hatred. So there was Arcus they hated, and now this motherfucker. So that's two.
This one was more because of the injustice. Arcus was because it was Arcus.
Arcus was
Oh.
because Arcus tried to have Gib killed. That's the only reason.
And the whole silence.
Oh yeah, he did cast silence on you, which was funny.
Quetz tried to give it the big I am with thaumaturgy, and he just went, silence! I was just there like... It was great.
They retrieved the body and brought it back up, at which point the mother was brought over as well. And the guards walked them up to the kind of the big temple that is in the city. City's name, by the way, is Ansharis. I've completely realized I haven't mentioned that yet. They perform a burial, which is like a water pool that they have, and the body kind of sinks and then goes. The temple is run by a warforged cleric. Now, the Warforged aren't like the other races. Because they were created, they weren't affected by the loss of magic. But the elves and the other races do not have the ability to create the Warforges again. So once they're gone, they're gone. Kind of a rare commodity. The cleric's name, I don't know why this made you all laugh when you heard it. His name was 83 Critical Care. And I don't know why that made you all laugh.
I
He's
don't
a
know either.
fucking robot who heals people and is called Critical Care.
It's
You might
very
as well
on the
have called
nose,
him
but
life
like
support.
83 life support. Beep.
His brother.
That's his brother.
Pull the plug! I don't have a plug!
You did that. We found out Quetz as a very typical character trait for Josh.
Okay, I'm
Um,
feeling attacked. Okay.
Is very much a split personality because of his origins. Josh said, Perry, if you want to run with some backstory, I was like, okay. At any point, if you think I've gone the wrong direction or such and such, let me know.
Basically,
Never has. Never
yeah,
has.
I didn't enjoy playing cleric as much as I thought I would, so I wanted to go back to my bread and butter, which is a paladin. So
Apparently you played it
previous,
Whoa!
wow, you're off the Christmas card list.
I'm just gonna.
But so yes, I didn't enjoy playing a cleric as much as I thought. It was fun, but it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. So I asked Perry, can I change to a paladin? However, I loved Quetz. Quetz was such a cool character. I'd put so much time and effort into building him and what I wanted him to be. I didn't want to lose him. So if you know much about the Reborn, they are basically a type of half undead, where a soul has come back and taken over a body. However, it isn't necessarily the soul of the body. So what we had happen is, because of what had happened to the young girl, I was questioning my oath. My vows. I'd failed this child, this innocent child, and I hadn't been able to save her, even though I'd made a promise that I would. So it was quite a emotional turmoil of a time for Quetz. And with that, I sat at a tree in one of the courtyards and kind of
Get the map up.
began to pray and it wasn't quite so much as a prayer as looking inwards. And Perry did some pretty cool things for me. So it turned out that there was somebody watching me. To this day, I have an idea who. I think I know who, but nothing.
Out
has
of
been
curiosity, I just want to hear you say, who do you think it was?
confirmed. You really making me say it?
Yep.
Mother of Ravens.
Okay.
See, that's all I get, which I'm fine with, because I'm very much as much as I love making my own backstories, I love lore dumps and I love parts of the world. So I said to Perry, you've got a blank canvas here. Do what you want with Quetz, because he had no memories from before he woke up. He had no idea who he was or what he was. And one of his main goals was, one, protecting people and saving lives, but two, was to find out his history, who he actually was and why he'd come back to life. So as part of this, he had this almost out-of-body experience and this vision, and it actually tied into coming through the portal. This vision showed me coming through the portal, gave me some information about why this had happened, things like that, and then brought forward another spirit. So Quetz was a Yuan-Ti, reborn. This spirit wasn't. This spirit was an orc, so completely foreign to this body. But this spirit also wasn't a cleric, he was a paladin. And him and the original Quetz, Cleric Quetz, had a discussion. And they decided that, yes, the cleric was powerful in his own right, but a cleric isn't what this world needed at the moment. This world needed a soldier, a warrior, a avenging spirit almost, we could say. So, Quetz came back as a paladin. And as an Oath of Conquest paladin. Oath of Conquest?
Yeah.
And I did something interesting. I burnt the tenets of my oath onto my arm, under my armour. And it was quite a poignant moment, because it was very much Quetz had gone into this almost trance-like state as not necessarily someone who was soft, but someone who had a more caring side, who was very much for the people, trying to do right by people. And he came out of it as this angry, vicious in some regards, orc-like person who all he wanted to do was tear the humans to pieces, and instill a fear into them that they would never, ever rise again. Which in turn caused some problems later down the line, but we'll get to that. Ooh! Turns out when you're hell-bent on killing an entire race of people, people label you as a genocidal maniac.
They do.
Can't imagine why.
Evil characters frown upon you.
Yeah,
Wow, dude, wow.
It was nice having the free reign to be able to do that with Quetz, but also having characters like Gunfar that was just really simple to deal with. Like Ryan's portrayal of Gunfar and how you did him was just, it was always really refreshing, because it was like the party are just like, right, well, we could do this, but then there's this, and then there's Gunfar laying butt naked on his bed trying to impress Zathara, and just being like, well, I can kill shit, so I'll just hit it with my hammer. The dynamic that the party seemed to have worked really, really well, and it just got better with different characters. There was points where like characters were brought in and it was like, actually it's not working well, what do we do? So we changed things up. We killed people, we got rid of people, we accidentally killed people.
Yeah.
Sorry, Quinn. So they had this, they then came away, did some stuff. Zadar was like, right, you guys did well, I have another quest for you. And it was at this point Jack joined. The quest was to head to a village. I need to go back to my notes, so bear with me. So, party tasked by Zadar to investigate a town of... And this, bear with me, my naming convention for my towns was shite.
I know.
So
a later
I do
character
apologise.
capitalised on that.
So, they were told to investigate a town called Fairview, to see why there was a black bubble that had enveloped the air kind of around it, and all the kind of wildlife and the town and stuff inside had kind of fallen into decay. The wildlife was dying. Tadar was like, I have somebody that knows the area. It's probably going to be good to help you. They are a druid. Meet him at the docks when you're ready to go. They went down. They visited Pekka very quickly to begin with. And Quetz picked up something rather interesting. What did you pick up, Josh?
I, against Pekka's rules, bartered with him for a dagger that, to this day, it's still called the cursed dagger in my inventory. Perry is adamant it isn't cursed. I am adamant it is cursed.
So, this dagger is a kind of a very shiny black material, almost like crystal-like. It's got a kind of a wrapped leather handle. And Pekka was very like, you can take it if you want to, but you know, I think it cost you like 400 gold, didn't it?
It was part of a deal to get a better shield as well.
That was it.
And he was like, here, I'll give you this an extra for very little extra gold, and that's what made me suspicious, because it was a good dagger for cheap from Pekka, and I was instantly like, something is wrong.
He touched it, and the dagger started to speak to him. It comes out later where Josh was like, I don't know what this dagger is. I dropped some hints, and Jack knew from the start.
I did figure out who was in the dagger.
You did.
I'm not going to spoil
Partly
it, though.
in the dagger.
I say we don't spoil it at all.
I do kind of want to.
Quetz doesn't know. Josh knows.
No.
Quetz doesn't know.
Exactly, so people can know.
Yeah, but Quetz
Also,
isn't here
if
right
it-
now.
True.
Say again.
Quetz isn't here right now.
That is very true. And also,
Yes.
I'd rather get it out there now in case somebody,
Yes, fair point.
heaven forbid, they actually watch it. But if somebody watches it and goes, actually, we don't like that, I'd much rather they go, can you change that? Otherwise, we're going to have to sue. And I'll be like, absolutely fine. I apologize. But it was just a cool idea that popped into my head because I was like, oh, I need to do this. So anyway, didn't know we were going to film. Picked up the dagger. They went and met Quinn. And who was Quinn, Jack? While he chokes and dies.
So Quinn is a Minotaur druid. He was originally from the southern, the continent in the lower left on the map, the Hagra. I never pronounce
Cosmodus.
Tell a lie. He then fled to the middle city and joined the fight against the humans because his tribe was wiped out by them. And yeah, that's Quinn. He was a druid, a Circle of Dreams druid, so he was a healer of the party, which was needed because the paladin liked to smite rather than heal.
I have heals for flavour that is never used because smite.
Yes. Which you use wrong.
And yeah, that's
Oh,
Quinn.
what?
Which in all fairness, everybody used smite wrong.
Not everyone, but a large
Curse
amount of people.
you, Jack, for pointing it out less than a week ago.
Yep. It's all right. It's changing completely now, so it doesn't matter.
No,
It's
the,
basically the same, but just a bonus action.
the irony is it isn't changing really, it's just actually explaining it properly.
It makes sense.
With a bonus action.
So they had a 2-day travel to this city.
No,
Zathar.
You're forgetting a certain dwarf and what happened in Alistair.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so they thought, actually, let's see if we can get some better weapons. They were told of an artificer dwarf whose name was Geiger Stonehammer. He was in the upper ring, one of the only factory things that are allowed in the upper ring. Nice little quaint shop. They walked in. Alistair, being completely at home under the tutelage of the dwarf, immediately pledged himself to servitude. The dwarf was a little bit like, okay, you're coming on a bit strong, mate, but fine, go start some work. Because James had an idea for another character that he wanted to try. So I was like, absolutely fine. If you want to retire him, he is now my NPC, though. I was like, you can still make decisions for him, but he is now my NPC. And James was like, absolutely fine. Gunfire got a weapon. You got like a big-ass cleaver, didn't you?
A custom-made cleaver that did
You've
fire damage.
also
But you didn't
forgot
get it
one
yet.
thing.
You put in the order for it, didn't you?
You forgot one thing.
Oh,
Before we went on this mission, Zadar officially signed a contract in blood with us.
He did.
Yes, because that's important later as well.
Yes, it is, Nalister! So Zadar had made us sign a contract, and we officially named ourselves
You did. What did you name yourselves?
the Syndicate. Wasn't it?
No.
Oh, that was a different campaign.
Oh shit, now I'm getting my
Sure, we're
campaigns mixed up.
Misfits in
No,
this campaign.
you're right, it's the Misfits.
Misfits.
My bad.
I would like to clarify for the group I'm with on Sundays. I did not come up with the name. You can't sue me.
It was all James's idea.
100% James.
I never said anything because I know we've had that group name for like almost 2.5 years now.
See, all his idea, he didn't defend it.
Motherfucker.
It's fine. I've been playing with them for a while now. The name has never come up.
It
First
has-
time I'm hearing about it.
It hasn't, ever. So, yeah,
Wait,
then Alistair signed
has it
himself off
not?
to that. No, it hasn't.
Yes, it has once.
Or maybe.
And that was in the latest big fight.
Okay. They
Spoiler
signed the
alert.
contract, did the thing. They then went and met Quinn. 2-day travel. They fought another, this time 2 Skirath hunters at once. Hurt. But before that, they were introduced to a new party member who through a portal in the sky.
The first
Fell.
of many.
What fell, James?
You made it a portal. I
Yeah,
just
I know.
said leaves. He was a centaur, but more importantly, a centaur who wandered into the Fae, and due to time shenanigans that are the Fade, that's fucking Dragon Age. The Fey Wild, the time shenanigans, he was pre-war and popped out post-war. And barely spoke any common. I went
Yes.
full hammer with this character and even named the spells in fucking Sylvan.
You did. You went full fucking ham with this.
It was so cool, yet so fucking awkward.
Yeah. This is what I'm talking about with like kind of a party dynamic. It was good and it went well. But at the same time, I think everybody could kind of feel like, does this work?
Tedak was a cool
And
character, though. I will say.
Tedak was a bloody cool character. Again, another ranged fucking artillery motherfucker. Yep.
He was basically Kairon.
Basically, yeah. So they.
Oh my god, he was Kairon.
Fuck,
They
I don't know
flew-
who Kieran is.
I think Percy Jackson.
Oh yeah,
Piers Brosnan.
you just say Greek mythology.
Shouldn't need to. You should know who Charon is.
There's so many fucking names in Greek mythology, alright?
He's
Also
okay,
very
fair
true.
point.
Yeah.
Fair point. Point taken.
They continued on. Tedak joining and fitting in all right, just kind of sleeping on the deck of the ship because he's too damn big to get under deck. Gib has been signed on as a permanent member of Zathara's crew. Turns out he's a bloody good cook, so he cooks for the party while they're flying. They land at the outskirts of the town because the bubble that had been created had stopped airships. The moment the airships fly into it, their floatstone engines just cut out and they plummet. They make their way through and they discover that there are multitude of undead. At which point they learn the undead in this world are slightly different. Very, very easy to kill. However, if you get bitten, you're fucked. Plain and simple. Luckily, didn't happen. Did with Quetz, but then we realised that he's actually immune to things like that. So
As someone who's a paladin main, I completely forgot I had divine blood, so I was immune to diseases.
you also technically don't have blood because you're reborn.
No, I have.
And you used a potion to get rid of it.
When really he's just immune to all diseases because he's reborn,
Yeah.
Reborn doesn't make you immune to diseases.
doesn't it? Because
Nope.
Paladin's level 7, isn't it?
Nope. Divine thing is level 4 or 5.
Either way, we retconned it because
I'm an idiot
we
either
had
which
to.
way.
We all are.
Reborn gives you resistance against diseases, not immunity.
That was it. And you technically would have passed.
Oh no, it was cure, spend 5.
That was it.
There's a lot of shit.
Yeah, lay on hands, but then also was immune to it. But yeah.
There was one wave of zombies, then there was another wave, then they got to the broken down town. They, on the way, had learned that this was Zathara's hometown. She'd had a conversation through a speech stone, basically, with somebody that one of them had listened in on. And they kind of had the inkling that it was her father that she was talking to. They get to the main part of the city. They see barricades and everything else, and 4 piles of bodies. They move closer. The bodies start to fall and fumble, and then they start to form into a giant creature, basically a creature made of the bodies. This was a tough fight for them. They're a little bit like, the fuck do we do? Because they did damage to it. It dropped zombies off it. Quetz was a big role in this because of the radiant damage. Quinn was doing amazing stuff by keeping people alive. Teraann was doing pew-pews from afar and running.
He was Sniper Man.
So much fucking
was.
damage.
Yep.
Yes.
And Gunfire was trying to grapple shit and beating shit with other shit.
Yeah, I don't think I used a weapon at all that fight. I think I was literally just hitting zombies with zombies.
You probably were, yeah.
It was great.
It was a hard fight, though. Very hard fight.
It was a very hard fight. It was a homebrew creature that I'd made. I called it the Zombie Town because it was literally the town that had formed one giant thing. By the way, I think it had about 300 health.
Yeah, we could tell.
I did a minimum of like 17 damage per round. We were
No.
fine.
It was 200 because every 50 that you took off, it dropped an amount of zombies.
Yes. They were annoying.
They were annoying. They had a little short rest, discovered that the town had buried, or something, had buried through an ancient crypt which had released the zombies and then done what it needed to. They followed it down and down. Whilst doing perception checks, they noticed that there were scratch marks all along the walls. Couldn't quite tell what they were for. Came into a giant-ass chamber where they were met with a voice of, "What are you doing here?" To come face to face with a young purple dragon. Said purple dragon was guarding an egg. For the first time, I saw them not know how to react because the party was conflicted. Some of them were like, do we attempt to kill it?
Hi.
Gunfire and Quetz.
Well, mine
Teraann was stood there going, I don't know what to do. What's this?
in my defense, my vow as a Oath of Conquest Paladin was if I let evil live, I broke my vow. And
you weren't sure if it was evil, were you?
no. But it's like, do I take the risk of it being evil, letting it go carry on, do evil atrocities elsewhere, and then break my vow?
And in my defense, Gunfire had always wanted to hunt and specifically headlock a dragon.
So it made sense.
And Quinn was
However-
there going, let's not die.
Exactly. Because you weren't on full health. You were all still quite badly beat up.
And we had no resources because short rest, not long rest.
And Purple Dragon is actually not in any of the D&D books, so I had to get that from a third-party source. And FYI, above table, because it's gone, you all would have died. It would have been a TPK if you tried. 100%. So you somehow managed to barter with this thing. The dome around the town was caused by this thing's lair. You got it to leave. You left, and then as you got back to the ship, you saw it flying away.
I will
Yeah,
say
little
the party
question.
had to drag me back into the tunnel to stop me getting them all killed.
That is very true.
Quetz can't keep his mouth shut, it seems.
On the way back, you were chatting with Zathara to see about her conversation with her potential father. She wasn't really open about everything, but she did tell you that her father is or was a high admiral in the Navy, but now is over in the far reaches of Sanctuary, just serving as a regular kind of admiral, but away from everybody. Mainly because he pulled strings, because Zathara is able to use magic still. and is a bloody good captain. They basically wanted to draft her, but he pulled some strings, sacrificed his own career in order to not have her drafted. She didn't want to serve in the military, so he took the brunt for it. They were heading back. Again, another fight with some Skirath. At which point, James and I were messaging privately, and he was like, I don't know what to do with Teraann. I like him as a character, but I don't know what to do. I was like, I completely agree. He was like, so if you kill him, don't worry. I was like, okay, I might be able to fudge some things. I don't like to fudge stuff as a DM because the dice tell a story. Sometimes it is needed. I think, James, you'll agree with me on that.
Yeah, when you roll 3 natural crits and it's like, they're fucking level 1. I don't want to kill them.
Bear with, dog's going mental.
I will say though, it did. What happened to Teraann did give us some cool RP moments.
It did. So, I was like, I can fudge something. Didn't need to fudge anything. The Skirath fucking murdered him. It's quite funny. I was like, yep, Teraann's down. And the only thing that it could hit on its second attack was Teraann. So it killed him. Which then, as you said, did give some really cool RP moments. So time around them kind of almost froze.
Jack first. Jack's cool RP moment.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
That was fucking so badass, Jack.
Quinn, who had been the literal kind of party healer, did a little bit of damage every now and then, but was mainly the party healer. At Teraann going down, Jack, you explain it. I'm not taking your moment from you.
Yeah, he kind of lost it because, you know, he'd watched his entire tribe get murdered and he'd just found a new party to be with, and then someone else died. So then because we'd just leveled up as well after the whole town, so he'd just got 3rd level spells. So he unleashed a what's it called, man?
Cool lightning, wasn't it?
Full lightning.
Yeah.
And just started going ham with lightning.
It was absolutely amazing.
Which was so cool that the party healer suddenly went, here's lightning coming from everywhere!
I think all of us literally were like,
Yes, we all were, 100%.
what the fuck's happening? He then had like a little kind of moment at the front of the ship where Quetz came over and tried to comfort. It was a nice little roleplay thing between you two. When these guys do roleplay stuff with each other, I just sit back. I don't get involved with anything because for me, I apologize.
Next week, we're going to see a Riley-shaped coat around Perry's shoulders.
That's a new
There will
throw you
be.
have there,
Don't
Perry.
say that. We love Riley.
Riley
I
is the
will,
best dog
I will
ever.
murderize him. Won't I? Yes, I will. Give me a kiss. Thank you. So yeah, when these guys roleplay, I fucking love just sitting back and being like, do it. Just watch, because it is absolutely amazing for me as a DM to be like, I've created this. You guys have then played it and have created your own moments, and now you're kind of living in them. So when we're playing sessions, I try my best to call them by their character names, which is gonna get confusing. And
Sorry.
when they go for something, I let them go. I let them go for a while, and it was this really touching moment between Quinn and Quetz, which is also weird. Say those two names together. At which point, time around those two stopped. A fey creature comes out. How did I describe her? Where was it? About 5 foot tall fey, winged. She was in robes. She had pointed ears, white porcelain skin, and an insect-like face. But still kind of pretty. She came down. She was like, look, he's going to be fine. Quetz did a very typical moment mainly for Josh.
Okay.
Josh has a severe martyrdom complex.
Right. I wasn't trying to get to. Okay, to clarify. So at the moment, within Quetz, there are 2 souls. You have Cleric Quetz, and then you have the Orc Paladin Quetz. Orc Paladin Quetz, because he'd kind of had this connection with with Tedak with the party, and because of his vow, he didn't want to see any more people who he deemed to be like kind of pure and true killed. He tried to barter with Cleric Quetz's soul with the Fae and said, "Take this soul." He said, "Take my soul." And it was very ambiguous on purpose because Fae deals.
I'd like to point out, in the original campaign we all did, he did this bullshit with another character with split personality and different souls with a Fae trade.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. That Fate Traitor was cool because I was a bard and I gave him the music of my heart, so you could, no matter what, you could never hear my heartbeat, which was quite cool.
It was cool.
Fey deals, I love them. Wordsmithing.
So he tried to make a Fey deal, but this Fey creature, oddly enough, was not interested in making a deal because she didn't need to. She was actually, which is why I like this so much, because she was actually a very good Fey. She was taking Tedak, and she was taking him home to where he'd basically been raised. Josh tried to come in with a deal. She wouldn't take it. So Quetz got shitty about it because Quetz thought Quetz was trying to do something honorable and that the Fae was being a dick. But the Fae wasn't. The Fae was actually being really good, of being like,
It's a
"I don't mean
recurring
it."
theme with Quetz.
It is.
He was
So
very
what happens is
self-righteous.
he was. She takes Tedak back, and those two get a vision pretty much immediately of the body of, it's like kind of some light figures that roughly resemble sort of shapes. And you see a light figure that vaguely resembles Tedak just kind of laying on the ground, and then it stands. From that, they kind of inferred that maybe Tedak isn't dead. Maybe he's come back, which kind of alleviated Quetz a little bit, but not completely.
She stole my friend.
She did. She's still your friend, but your friend isn't technically dead. Unlike someone.
Wow.
So, they made it
Yeah.
back to Ansharis. At which point they get to the skydock and there's a lot of activity. A lot of ships are coming in and they get closer and they can see that there's a lot of wounded people. Start asking around. They find out that during a skirmish around one of the outlying cities of the portal, Silver Star Kingdom had sent 30 ships. 12 of them had returned. 10 of those 30 ships were transports, each of them having 300 people on. Soldiers, medical staff, everything like that. And only 2 of those 12 ships that returned, only 2 of them were those transport ships. So 8 of them were lost. A lot of people had died. And for a war that these guys technically aren't really invested in, it hit them hard. And me being out of everything, me being me, I was like, oh shit, this was just meant to be like filler stuff. And I was like, these guys are like, they offer a little bit of help. They help some of the more seriously wounded people. And
Quetz finally
do
used
what
healing spells as a paladin.
Quetz finally used healing spells as a paladin. They
Mom.
make it back up to Zadar. At which point they give him the information of what happened. He pays them. He's kind of become their beneficiary. Every single time they go to Zadar, they see Winona at the door, and Winona always kind of greets them in. She tells them to smarten themselves up. She's very much like a mother figure.
Quetz did
But-
have some cool RP with Winona as well.
He did. She had, because this Quetz also understands Orcish. They did have a little bit of respect, and Quetz could kind of tell that even though Winona is essentially a servant under the service of Zadar, he respects the absolute hell out of her, as in Zadar respects her. Nobles in the area also do. She struck the party as somebody that, yes, she's a servant, but you don't fuck with her.
It gave me a cool few
She
moments
holds a
to learn
gravitas.
Orcish and use Orcish as well. Like actual, I looked into it and it was so cool.
Yep, it was bloody good.
I took a leaf out of James's book. I won't lie. He inspired me with his Sylvan.
You had to try and one up each other. It was great.
I wasn't trying to one-up him. It was a homage to greatness.
It was, and it was very well done.
Then I wound up him later.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. You're not wrong.
They are then given a mission by Zadar, something which actually holds true to 2 of them currently. They're told to hunt a member of the Eight. Now, a member of the Eight is something that none of them know about, but they do start to get lore on. Zadar gives them as much as he can. The Eight are 8 basically demigod figures created, which they find out later, but created by the human's god as kind of his generals represented in the mortal plane. From what people can tell, they like to camouflage themselves into the everyday people, because if you put someone like that in the rank and file of an army, and then all of a sudden they burst out with their godly powers, you are going to demoralize an army like that. The humans will use what they can. They are bastards. They know the identity of 3. Let me get to the right page.
Our friend Arcus.
I was going to say,
Yes.
I can tell you one from personal experience.
So, I did this on purpose. Zadar goes through them. He goes, one of them is known by the name of the Grim Witch, which they were like, potentially death magic. Maybe all these 8 actually represent a different school of magic each. Ooh, this is interesting. And in my head, I went, are there 8 schools of magic? Fuck it, there are now. The second one that they know the name of is Feldor. Not sure what he's part of. And then I paused, and Josh looked at me down the camera, and he knew what I was going to say.
I did.
And I went, the third one that we know of is Arcus.
And then Quetz had a big emotional roller coaster in front of Zadar.
Quetz basically jizzed in his pants and was like, yay, I get revenge.
it was definitely an experience for Quetz.
The identity of this member of the 8 wasn't known. It was a kind of surprise. They had, and this is where my town naming conventions come into shit, they had recently taken back a town called Fair Watch. These guys have been given a manor as well, so they now have a place to stay and call their home, called Fairview. Was it Fairview Manor or Fairwatch Manor?
Fair watch, man.
No,
Fairwatch Manor. See, this is where I don't take very good notes. And I hadn't planned names of things.
Jack, you're up.
So I was like, oh, there's Fairwatch, Fairview, and Fairwatch Manor. So they have to go to the town of Fairwatch. It is an 8-day... So before Fairwatch is a creek. It's called Hell's Creek. They basically... That is kind of like a blockade line. The humans have that kind of all sorted. They can't get round. So they have to land just on the other side of Hell's Creek. And then either their options are to go to a dwarven city and see if they can barter passage to Fairwatch through an old runic teleportation system, or they have to brave Hell's Creek for 2 days on foot. They chose the dwarves because it might be easier. They found out that the dwarves have remained neutral during this entire conflict. The humans are bartering with them because it is the only way to get floatstone for the ships. The dwarves are neutral because they're profiteering from everything. They're just horrible money laundering assholes.
They have basically got dragon sickness.
Pretty much. So they agree. The entire time hoping it's Arcus.
This is where stuff kicks off, though, as well.
This is where shit kicks off. This is where... So this was culminating to a kind of in-person D&D session for the big member of the 8 boss battle on my birthday. First one that I've ever run in person, because we do them all on this. And I was like, I kind of want to get it to the point where we do that on my birthday. And they were like, yeah, brilliant. We did. It worked out well.
We
7-day journey to...
missed
Where?
out that we got Sarf before this.
Yes. Beg my pardon.
I was trying
While
to
they're
forget
talking about
about
it with...
Sarth.
While they're talking about this with Zadar goes, actually, I know somebody that might be able to help you with this. They're a bit creepy, but decent. Which then enters who, James?
Darth, who was once a cleric of Merkel, who lost his magical powers, and then started to do dark magic to become a warlock of Merkel, who just so happened to have some celestials, in big quotations, as minions, just to really confuse Quetz.
Oh, yeah, those.
What were those
fucking
Celestials'
fluff-
names?
Oh, fudge.
Um,
One
If you don't
was
have the character sheet up, it's not a problem.
Bill,
I think-
some. It was like very bog standard.
One was
name.
called Carl.
Carl was one. There was
That's the
Bill.
only one I remember.
Stuff.
Gosser, Carl, Lodge, and Zarsa. Zarsa?
Wow, Jack. See, Jack is our librarian. He knows
He writes
everything.
notes. He does wonderful.
And just to double check, is this all loaded? Gosser, I've deleted them because I got the better zombie.
But yeah, it was them. Sarth comes along. He's a bit creepy. Wears a mask. Him and Quetz don't particularly get along.
Considering I'm
Which-
for the good Oath of Conquest Paladin, and I'm thinking this is an evil motherfucker.
This is a necromancer motherfucker
He
bitch.
thinks I'm dead,
I could
I'm
never
a
prove it.
Dampmere.
Didn't know that though.
Yeah, didn't know. So James and I also had a thing of like, oh, if Quetz ever tries to do detect dead on it, can I? Sarth had something that basically made them seem like they were whatever he wanted them to. So every time he did detect undead, it was just no. You see celestials, and it just really fucked with Quetz's head. It
Kept
was
trying
great.
to do it at random times to try and catch him out, and it never fucking worked.
It was
I think it-
wonderful.
I will say credit to Sarth, he was always prepared for my shenanigans.
He was always prepared for your shenanigans. So they start the 7-day journey to Hell's Creek, and then they're going to be traveling to Fairwatch. I think even the different options. On the way, they fought a manticore, which was fun. You guys dealt with that fairly all right, I think.
You gave me something cool with the manticore.
Explain.
So, Perry had been hinting about this cursed dagger, and maybe I should use it. And I was like, it's a cursed dagger. No, I'm going to stick to mace and shield because bonk and shield. Tried, tested. And I thought, now, do you know what? I'm finally going to listen to my DM's hints. And dealt the killing blow to this manticore. Well, I presume it was. He could have just made it the killing blow. Either way, it was cool.
Oh, no, actually 100% was.
Oh, was it? Oh, that makes it even cooler.
Yeah.
I took the dagger out and I drove it into the manticore's eye. And then the manticore's head exploded. Covering everyone in gore. And I mean the entire fucking ship. It was so cool.
The dagger obviously then spoke and was like, well, that was interesting. I don't think I've ever done anything like that before. They had a little bit of a conversation. The dagger knows it's not from this plane. Doesn't understand how it got here. And is potentially a soul shard of someone. But it can't remember who. That's all it would give. They had a point where the engine started to cut out. They went through a storm. There was a man-made hurricane. It was a hurricane that was like far too big and horrendous to be anything kind of natural. There's a bunch of stories going around. I think someone thought there was a man inside it.
Okay. I saw.
Come on,
I was
Josh.
given a vision that there was a person in the center of the storm. So I went, "Let's go! What's the worst that could happen?" Thankfully, the party didn't listen.
But while they were in that hurricane, it was going in pretty much the same direction that they were, so they used it as cover. They stayed in the eye, and while they were in the eye, they looked down and they saw a fucking huge kraken in the water. Gunfire threatened to jump in and try and kill it, and I was like, "You really don't want to like." It's my one DM thing of please don't because you'll die.
Not the first time Gunfire's jumped overboard, or wasn't the last.
Nope. And it was Gunfire was the one that I had to watch out for because it was like,
Gunfall was the toddler of the group.
this is gonna get people killed if he does this, but also at the same time, I don't want to stop him. So I just had to leave it to Gunfire to make the right decision. Thankfully, pretty much always he did, so it was good.
You've missed a bit out as well about our bonus task for the member of the
Yes.
eight.
So while they're flying, they're recounting what they need to do and they're making plans. So Dar had said, you need to deal with this member of the eight, you need to kill them, and you need to make it an example. Because the eight have been viewed as untouchable for hundreds of years. This war has been going on for about 800 odd years. Kind of at a stalemate at the moment, ish, but the Silver Star Kingdom are losing. So, they've been tasked to make it an absolute spectacle. If a member of the eight can be killed, there's a chance they can win. So they're like, oh, hell yeah. Discussions ensue.
I still hold I was right. But
No.
and then it turned out I was wrong.
Things happen. I'm going to do a short version of this. Basically, the party doesn't know what happened with the town, whether the town just willingly let the humans take them back over, because the town was an amalgamation of both, but it was owned and governed by the Silver Star, so the elves. The humans came and invaded. Quetz thought that if they just let them do it, they're no better than the humans themselves. Why should they be spared? Everybody else was, no, they're citizens. They probably couldn't have stood up to fight. They're innocent.
I did caveat this with, if they had tried to stop them in any way, then they had done their best. Everyone
Yes.
kind of glossed over that and focused on the fact I was going to impale the entire town on spikes. Beside the point.
That's because the point you focused on.
Well, it
So
would have
this
worked.
went backwards and forwards, and eventually Zathara got involved.
Oh, that was a bad mistake for me.
It was a very bad mistake for Quetz. So Zathara is a character that has a lot of kind of secrets to the party currently. They had a feeling she was powerful. I scared the crap out of Quetz. They had a little discussion, and he said something. It was something like, "You don't know what true loss is," or something like that.
Yeah, I said, you don't know what it's like to truly lose people you love to war.
As she was walking away, at which point she stopped. As soon as I said, Zathara stops, Josh's face went,
Considering it's been a running theme, Quetz doesn't know when to shut the fuck up, because
Yep.
he's very self-righteous and he's like, what I say is what I believe in, so it comes out my mouth.
yeah,
He
which is
stopped after
wonderful.
this.
You play the character perfectly. She stops.
I did shit my pants
She-
a little.
She turns round. She walks towards him, at which point her eyes start to glow purple. Her hair starts to lift. She has like kind of purplyish hair. She gives him a very kind of to the point and on the nose speech about how dare you don't know anything. I've been alive potentially a lot longer than you. I've seen things you can't scarcely imagine. And for the first time, I had a player roll something with intimidation, which Josh failed.
I'm glad you let me
Just.
roll, because I would have loved to have known what happened if I'd passed, but I'm glad I failed, because I'm scared as to what would have happened if I'd passed.
Yeah.
Because if I'd have passed, it would
She
have gone to the
let
next
him live.
level.
She let him live, but Quetz,
I
and
stayed
the way
below
that Josh
deck.
played it afterwards, Quetz knew that he had fucked up.
I kind of stayed away from the
Badly.
party for the rest of the journey.
He did. They then got to the outskirts of Hell's Creek. So they landed at the outpost. They docked. Things were still a little bit awkward because the party was like Quetz was gonna impale everybody.
The party was fully prepared to kill me.
Party was fully prepared to
But
kill him.
I had said above board, this is what my character would do. But if the party disagrees with it and it gets to the point where the party has to kill Quetz because of this, I wasn't going to kick off, because that is, again, if I'm going to play my character as I would play as the character would be, I would fully expect the party to do that, and the consequences are the consequences.
And this is where it comes into is one thing that I love about D&D is because you need to play it with people that you're comfortable with. Yes, things can get awkward. We know this from our game. I mean, I watched Critical Role. They had a lot of controversy about something one of their characters did. And the internet jumps on it immediately of like, oh my God, they're all so angry at each other. If you're sat at a table with or on a PC with people that you know and that you trust, you have to be able to trust them to make those decisions. And because it's a game, you have to be able to accept it and be okay with it. Like, if I kill a character that somebody really likes, I'm going to feel like shit, but then I'm going to work with that person to be like, right, what do you want to do next? Let's get something really good. Let's try something. Or you get a character that it's this oldest excuse in the book of, oh, it's what my character would do. Ryan, are you falling asleep?
No, I'm responding to a message. Sorry.
Oh, it's what my character would do. This is something that the problem people at tables, it's an excuse that they use to just be a dick. However, in this situation, it worked because it is what Quetz would do. And the party were like, well, this is what we need to do, if that's what you want to do. And it got a bit awkward at times, but it worked.
The RP was phenomenal. The
It
RP is
was.
always good, but those couple of sessions where it was so, like, from that conversation to the end of this arc, effectively, no matter what we did, it always felt like there was an edge to every decision I made, because it was very much, I knew, as me and as Quetz knew, that if I did make the wrong decision, and if I ended up having to follow through on this because I thought it was right and I thought this would fulfill my vow to bring evil to an end, to bring it to an end in such a way that they would never again be able to rise up because of the fear. Because the whole thing was, I wanted to stamp out the evil of the humans and do it in such a way they would be too terrified for generations to come to rise up again. And it was very much a put a village to the stake to put the fear into them so others would survive. Which it was absolutely ice cold logic, but it was logic that worked with my vow. But in the same vein, it worked for the party as well, and they were like, "If you do that, we will kill you." And I was like, "That is fine." But there was always the edge of, I need to make the right decision now.
Yeah. With you guys, how did that make you kind of like? We've gone off on a little bit of a tangent. We will get back on, but it's interesting because this is what people that like play D&D, if they're doing stuff like this, is what they kind of like need to know, because if they come across it in a game, they're going to be like, "Oh my god." You don't want them to take it personally as a person, but like, how did you guys deal with kind of this whole situation? Because it was very interesting to watch and be a part of.
You can say you hate me, it's fine.
Zarth was very much, I'm just going to get another body to my collection. Meanwhile, as James, I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right. Sticking to his guns.
I very much just saw it as Josh being Josh, and Gunfire was like, "No, you should protect weak people. You shouldn't be killing them." So obviously, just against Quetz there.
Yeah, Quinn was the resident healer, was all about defending the weak and helping people. So naturally was against it. And then as a player, because this is my first campaign of playing D&D as well, I think what Perry was saying is you just got to trust your players, and like we all knew that if it came to it and we did kill Quetz, Josh isn't going to be mad about it or it cause an issue.
My only request
I
would be
think
you kill me in an awesome way.
Oh yeah, obviously. But I think that allows the freedom to properly roleplay it out and gives people the license to really get invested.
Josh, it would have been a grapple then a ground and pound.
And that's the main thing. Like, you guys,
as long as you do that and then pull my limbs off, I'll be happy.
I trust you all completely with essentially like my story.
Your mistake.
My mistake, everything like that. Like, I'm putting this out there for you guys to play through and enjoy and play with in the most interesting ways. And I think that's what all DMs kind of think and then worry about, especially if you're doing like a homebrew one. Like when we first started with D&D, it was, or when I first started, sorry, it was through James's homebrew and Lemma campaign, and it was my first taste of everything. And I was like, oh shit, I could ruin stuff without even knowing it. But at the same time, it was a homebrew world that I think James was just like kind of guiding along, but also like, you can sort of do what you want and I'll deal with it type thing. And that's what we've been trying to do with this one. So I jumped in my first ever D&D campaign as my own homebrew. I just shot myself in the face. So they land at the outpost. We'll go back on topic now from that little side tangent. Land at the outpost, they docked. A soldier recognized Athara. She stayed on the ship because she didn't want to deal with anything. You were shown to where the captain of the fort was based, where you met somebody who you had met briefly. Back before you left, there was a Dark Elf diplomat talking with Zadar, and Zadar did not like this Dark Elf diplomat, whose name you learned was Drazar. It's an asshole, as you all referred to him as, multiple times. Yep. He left Zadar. Yep. This Drazar is talking with this captain, whose name is Captain Hitus Pooling. They're having a little conversation. Drazar and his two little bodyguard people leave. You then have a conversation with Hytus. You learn that he is the adopted son of Drazar, and Hytus left the city in the Underdark to help the Silver Star. He rose to the rank of captain and now is in charge of this fort. You also learn that they'd taken a prisoner from a downed ship who was in Fairwatch. He might know some things. So you're tasked with a little interrogation session. This was one of the most, up to this point, this was one of the most amazing role plays I think I'd seen you guys do. This guy was in a lay down. Don't growl.
He was in a lay down.
Stop it. This guy was in a tent. He started off nice and easy with Quetz, Gunfar, and Quinn going in. I think there was some pinning down and some tickling with a feather.
Yeah, I took
Okay,
his feet.
okay, that wasn't Quetz. Quetz is distancing himself from that whole kind of tickle torture thing. That was all Gunfar and hanging them by their ankles. It was very weird.
Then you brought in your big guns. What was the big guns, James?
It was Sarth.
And how
Sarth.
was Sarth the big guns?
Sarth is the undead warlock type. So with the form of dread, Perry gave me some little extra flavour and turned me into looking almost like the living embodiment of Merkel himself, growing 3 skull heads in the shadowy form and everything like that. And just not even harming him, just causing the fear to flow into him, promising him he gets to live, just slowly destroying his morale bit by bit, question by question, result by result.
It worked wonderfully. Took a bit of time, but it worked. There was a Zone of Truth cast, which he passed his save for.
He failed it, so everything he told us he believed was the truth.
Everything he told you he believed was the truth.
Which was
They
such
wanted
a
to know-
caveat, you absolute twat.
Oh, yes. They wanted to know who it was. This guard told them it was Arcus.
At that point, I not just Quetz, literally was jumping for joy.
Yep. Quetz thought he was going to get some revenge. Gunfar was happy as well. He's like, I don't care. I'll fucking smash him.
Literally.
So it had now become personal. They kept him there, and eventually that prisoner was probably taken off to Ansharis for more questioning. They talked with Pooling for a little bit, where they found out that he used to date their wonderful Captain Zathara.
That was funny.
They also found out she was gay. So Gunfar was,
Didn't stop him trying, though.
Never
still.
stop trying, though. Their relationship had ended interestingly, and they all kind of dared him to go and talk to her. So he did. They had a rest. In the morning, they chose that they were going to take the Dwarven Path. They were given a map to be able to get to the Dwarven City. It was only about a day and a half's journey. So they set off. They were given a couple of health potions and things like that. They had some trouble trying to climb a rock. Mainly Quetz had trouble trying to climb a rock. And it was the first time our druid used his wild shape.
Yeah.
Freaked the hell out of me.
It was the first time in the entirety that you'd been here. This is up to this point from when Jack was... Jack joined. This was the first time he'd done it. And this was probably about what?
3 months in, 4 months in.
Yeah, fair few sessions. Fair few
Yeah.
sessions.
Quite a few in, yeah.
Yep.
I was the healer. I didn't have time to wild shape.
Exactly,
And you
exactly.
did such an amazing job of it
Yep.
until you didn't.
You camped, and in the night, Sarth saw a figure stood on a little kind of mountain-y top while they were going through this like ravine, basically. Kind of tried to move, looked away, blinked ever so subtly, and the The figure was gone. They then continued in the morning. They were getting close. They were about an hour's-ish journey away, where they came across, and if you want to, look this up on D&D Beyond, because this creature is gross. It's kind of like a hippo, bear, platypus thing. It's called a catabrepus. None of these guys had faced one before. They were like, what the fuck is this? Gunfire decided, I'll see if I can tame it. No. This creature turned around, its eyes were glowing blue. It was very clearly under the control of someone. A fight ensued. That was going to be the only fight. Just that one catabrepus. Who spoke up and taunted the DM?
The one and only Josh.
Oh, this fight's easy. Oh, no, wait, this is where he's going to summon something else.
My bad.
On like a 20-foot cliff that was above them, another catabrepus appeared, and a humanoid figure in a mask. That humanoid figure in a mask decides to teleport down. Some fighting happens. Catabrepus have a very interesting ability. I believe it's called Death Ray. It happened a couple of times, but the saving the saving thing it was decent. But if you failed the save by 5 or more points less than what you needed, so say the save was, I don't know, a 15, and you failed it by a 9, by rolling a 9 and getting a 9 overall, if that reduced you, it did flat 68 damage. If it reduced you to 0 hit points, instant death. And unfortunately, the person that I targeted the least, because they were always running around healing, always doing the back bits, always just being there, soaking damage, doing what they needed to. The one person I shot a death ray at, poor little Quinn, failed the save. I think it was by about 6 points, and was instantly killed.
If only I had had inspiration.
If only you had had an inspiration. I give my guys inspiration points for really, really good role plays. Jack had an inspiration point, but didn't use it.
Totally
I
didn't
forgot
forget.
about it.
Yep.
It's a running theme.
It's because he forgot to note it down, I think, is the problem.
It's not in the notes because it's
Yeah.
on the character sheet.
Unfortunately, I killed Quetz.
No,
And I
you
felt
killed
like
Quinn.
Sorry. Killed Quinn, and I felt
Wow!
like shit. Because I freaking loved Quinn, and
was
I was
so
like,
cool.
this was the first time I've actually tried to do like direct damage to you, and you go and fail the fucking save.
Yeah.
So Quinn had died. What's Saf do with Quinn's body, James?
Darth did nothing. Quinn got disintegrated, thank you very much.
Yeah, likely story.
Realistically, Darth did a very good sleight of hand and just yoinked the entire corpse into his bag of holding.
He did, which is where his 4 little zombie celestials live.
Celestials.
um,
That bag of
So-
holding's seen some shit.
fighting continued, and it was revealed that the masked figure was actually a mind flayer.
When he tried to eat my brains,
He did try to eat Quetz's brains and very nearly succeeded.
he found them very lacking.
It's like he put his tentacle in and it was just hollow.
It's like that
Brain was
scene
up
in
in
the
the
D&D
corner.
movie when the intellective arrows walk past the party and they're like, well, that hurts.
Like you in real life, Josh.
And how many
Um,
pieces did I leave that Mind Flayer and his 2 pets in?
The pets you absolutely dismembered. 100%.
He
It was
bodied
Josh that
them.
killed the mind flayer.
Was it? Oh,
Yeah.
I thought I killed as well.
No,
No.
it was the first mind flayer that James has ever beaten in combat, and James has been playing D&D for...
No, James killed it.
Not beaten. It was the first one I'd ever encountered in my 15 years at this point of D&D.
Damn. And then you beat it. The mind flayer's name was Zythax, which they did learn later. Excuse me. That's gross. I keep forgetting we're filming.
It's not like we've been filming for 2 hours or anything.
No, it's true.
Somehow.
The mind flayer was wearing a mask, which Quetz took. eventually attuned to and realized it was a mask of animal kind of dominance. Can't remember the name of the spell for it, but it's you can befriend an animal basically, which is what it was using to control the Cataclysmus. Unfortunately, Quinn had the map. So through some very lucky survival checks, they did manage to find their way to the entrance to the Dwarven City. They get there, they're met by the elevator, basically, guard. Very grumpy man. Takes them down into the city. They ask him his name. I hadn't thought of one, so he told them no, get fucked. They are going down the elevator and they can see into the city. It's kind of a Dyson sphere type thing. So city on the bottom in this hollowed out cavern. A artificial sun basically made in the middle, and then the roof is also city but built upside down. Think Western Air Temple from Avatar: The Last Airbender. That kind of style. In the city, they notice there are warforges. It's very steampunk-esque. So there are like kind of war balloons and loads of steam towers and turning cogs and all this sort of stuff. In the center, surrounded by a moat, is
Black
a
Reach.
Black Reach in its height, basically. There is a fortress, the kind of the main castle building for the Lord / Jarl, who they then go to meet. They know that they need to get favor to be able to use the teleporter. So they talk to him, Jarl Hagrim Forgehammer. They went to his palace. They asked to use the teleporter. He said he'd consider it if he helped them, if they helped him clear a mine. At which point, Jack needed a new character. So, Jack, who did you bring in?
Isamu. So he was a Warforged samurai fighter. Yeah, he was sort of made by one of the artificers in the Dwarven City, and yeah, the clan of the dwarf that made him was wiped out by the humans as well. So he had a bit of a vendetta against humans, even though the dwarves were supposedly neutral.
Vendetta.
Yeah. So yeah, he was essentially a robot samurai.
Really cool. They went and cleared the cave. There was these creatures that I wanted to use because I thought, oh, they've got cool abilities. That cool ability didn't work on a single member of the party. So I never got to use that.
He forgot he had a party member of a paladin with 20 charisma that gave +5 to all saves in aura.
Yeah, it's fucking annoying. They
Paladin.
came across some earth elementals and eventually is it Dorga? Dwarga?
Dwarga.
Dark dwarf, basically, who was a really underwhelming fight. Didn't balance that one well for the new characters and the abilities that people had. They cleared it. They went back to the Jarl. He told them to rest up. And in the morning, then, yes, they can use the teleporter. They woke up in the morning. They came down. This was a spur of the moment reference to things. They woke up and they were awoken to the sound of a little contest happening down in the Great Hall. This contest was between a elf and a dwarf. The dwarf turned out to be the Jarl's son, called Grimless. And the elf was a tall, blonde-haired elf, long hair, by the name of Hagras. It's definitely not Gimli and Legolas.
Legally
Talking
distinct
sake.
Gimli and Legolas.
Legally
Talking
distinct
Don't
Gimli and Legolas.
to
They were
Tolkien
having a
theatre,
contest
We're good.
of throwing axes at stuff, and Grimless lost, stormed off. Hagras followed him. The party then decided, oh, let's just see if we can have a little do. They did some throwing. Gunfire was basically going to win. Quetz threw one, failed it poorly, but at the same time that happened, James Azarth was like, I want to use Mage Hand to make him fail. So I had him roll that as well. He got a natural 20, which inadvertently made Quetz win.
I got on that one and it counterbalanced and it was just like
It
perfect.
counterbalanced and it was perfect. And I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. So that was hilarious. They are then taken into the Jarl's kind of study. No, the Jarl clears the room. It's just Isamu's artificer, kind of handler, creator, and the Jarl. As soon as everybody leaves, the Jarl kind of drops his facade and is basically like, "Oh my god, thank you. You know, you guys, it's really good. Did you want some drinks?" Really, really nice person, rather than being kind of typical dwarf. He's like, "Of course you can use the teleporter. You know, we're more than happy to help the elves. We've got to keep up these appearances that his brother had started to ascertain neutrality because of war profiteering, basically." They take the portal. Isamu goes with them.
Smash up a throne room.
Oh yeah, smash up a throne room a little bit, just in case anybody asks any questions.
Plausible deniability.
Exactly. They ended up in the sewers of Fairwatch, which is where the old teleporter kind of links them to, but it is only one way. They explore through, and as they do, they come across a tablet on the wall. The tablet depicts a kind of like an old religious kind of thing. It's a singular person with wings stood on the top of a hill with some soldiers and stuff below, like sun beaming down, very regal but very, very faded. It read, "With the slaying of the last slaver gods, Enobus stood triumphant. His white wings spattered with his enemy's blood. He turned to his people, those loyal and faithful, and spoke only these words. Now we claim what is ours." That was what was written. And they'd finally learnt the name of the humans' god. They were told that there are still some people in the city, in this little town, that would be loyal to them. Hytas Pauling had given them information that, yes, there were humans in the city, but they were loyal to the Silver Star Kingdom. So when the humans came and invaded, the townsfolk did try to help in its defense, which kind of alleviated some of the tension with Quetz.
Because
He
they
now
tried.
no longer had to kill an entire town.
Just an entire fort.
Just an entire fort of soldiers.
Potato.
Yeah. They were told to meet Hadrius, who was an elderly man who was alive when the humans had taken the town back. They were in this little sewersy bit, and they heard some voices. They approached cautiously. Turns out this was Hadrius, who had been forewarned that they were coming, and he'd been coming to this location most nights to see if they'd turn up. He had a youngish boy with him by the name of Key, who was kind of like a little apprentice type person. Very brash, very kind of to the point, but awesome. Cared about
I
Hadrius
liked
and was
Key.
looking after him.
Key was cool.
They
Key and
managed
Quetz
to get
really
them.
hit it off.
They did. Hadrius managed to get the party back to his little shack, and they came up with a plan. There was a secret way or an underground kind of passageway into the fort where they could get in if the villagers created a distraction. The party were like, "You don't need to do that." Then there was some discussion about, well, then do you really want to go on for a fucking full frontal assault onto this fort? And it was like, well, no. So the townsfolk were happy to do what they needed to do.
Quetz was all for the full frontal assault. I just like to point
Betts was, I think Gunfire was as well.
out.
Yeah, obviously.
Because at this point, Gunfire, when he raged, were you large or were you huge at this point?
Large. I don't think
Large.
I ever reached
He
huge.
would have gone huge if
Quinn was alive.
within large. But
Yes. So our plan was to make Gunfire into a walking siege golem and go through the wall.
Yeah.
Which I think was effective. And we'd have been chanting
Oh.
Grond the entire time. Grond!
Sarth also
Grond,
had a
Grond.
secret ability he was just holding up for the boss fight, to put in quotation.
Yes. So you've eventually decided on the stealth option. Hadrius and Sarth were going to be the ones that did it because Sarth could stealth quite nicely. And it was at this point you will realize a little tiny exploit.
We trivialized every stealth section of every game.
someone care to explain what this little stealth exploit was?
So, only one member of the party actually needed to breathe. That was Gunfar. We have a Warforged who doesn't need to breathe, a Damphir who doesn't need to breathe, and a Reborn who doesn't need to breathe. So we thought, wait, that means Gunfar has 10 minutes of air in the bag of holding. Why don't we all just get in the bag of holding, bar Sarth, and then when we need to, do quick breaks where Gunfar comes out, gets a few seconds of air, and goes back in. It was effective.
It was very effective.
No one noticed Quinn's body because the Celestial stood in front of it like,
Yeah, that was some...
Literally.
I rolled some dire perception checks, and he rolled some really good deception checks.
You really did. You got to the little entranceway, made your way in, took out a few guards very stealthily, realized there were these construction monstrosity things that were basically just eyes, giant eyes that were almost like sentry alarms, but some of them weren't working. You then found what, Jack?
We found some like vats of potions. Some of the guards had slightly more refined versions on them as well. And after taking one of these potions, we found that they had the ability to restore either like spell slots or stuff like action surge. So a fighter's like one-off abilities, sort of thing. So they're very, very valuable potions. So we then tried to obviously find the recipe for it, but we found a note saying that it had been sent to Arcus.
Just affirming that it was Arcus that was in charge.
You missed how we did the stealth section. How we got rid of the guards. Because, come on, that was cool.
Oh, God, yeah. So there was a moment with the bag of holding. James was invisible, or Sarth was invisible, and they'd made some noise, and this guard had come out. Sarth went invisible and had everybody in the bag of holding in the corner. This guard went to reach into the corner, and Sarth ducked, so it didn't get him. No, the guard came out. Sarth tried to put the bag of holding over him, failed. So he then backed up into the corner. The guard put his hand out. Sarth ducked. The guard went to go and get some reinforcements. He tried it again. This time succeeded. So this guard fell into the bag of holding and proceeded to have the shit beaten out of him by the rest of the party that were in there. He didn't survive the round.
There was 3 marshals and 4 celestials, all built for melee.
That was another body added to Sarth's collection.
And then
I've
there
been-
was the paladin missile, thank you.
Oh, God.
So the
I
one
forgot
time...
about that.
So the
I
one
did
time me
not.
and Sarth actually worked together, we planned that in the worst case scenario, if we ever got kind of caught, he was going to turn the bag of holding inside out, which turns everyone out instantly. However, his 4 celestials were going to launch me as we did that. So we did that and threw me through a person. And I say through a person because I went Captain America shield first, hit him, and he just went pop.
It became
Everywhere.
a red mist.
It was amazing.
It was my sides hurt. I was laughing so much.
Rule of cool, and it was
But it was
fucking
rule of cool, and I'm like, I do not care if my party can explain how to do this. I will figure out a way to make it happen.
Well, to be fair, we did the maths with the Celestials' strength scores and everything, and they would have been able to throw me, especially as there
Yep.
were 4 of them. So we
We
worked
calculated
it
speed, at how far you'd fly, and therefore how much damage you would do.
well. It was a lot. It was a lot.
It was a lot. This man became a red mist.
It was so cool. Coolest thing I've done
wonderful.
in this campaign yet.
So that happened. You then went into the prison, released the captives, after dealing with a very annoying mage. That
Oh yeah.
it was your first taste of a fireball.
Do, 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 do.
You all got hit by a fireball. And then Jack, being a martial character, but not particularly fast, this mage was at the end of a corridor. So Jack runs, gets hit by a fireball, has to run some more, gets hit by a cone of frost, or cone of cold, whichever one it is. Then gets to the mage, And the mage teleports.
Yeah, that was fun.
They did kill him eventually,
With
but it
extreme
was annoying.
prejudice.
Yep. They released all the prisoners. The prisoners raided the armory. They spoke to, it was an elf and a dragonborn, wasn't it? They told you potentially where Arcus could be. So they went and grabbed some stuff. They went and joined the fight that was now happening outside with the villagers attacking the fort and rising up. So now was your chance. You snuck down a corridor. You got to the main entranceway. The main entranceway was a double staircase that led up, and at the top was a room. You peered around the corners, and stood outside that room was a mage in black robes. No, normal robes with a black sash kind of across, kind of depicting as someone potentially important. And two other guards. Some things were being spoken through the door. The mage closed the door. They came down the stairs. And with a nice high perception check, Quetz realized that that mage, as he left the house or main palace area, bit of this fort, as he left, looked over at the party, almost with a look of acknowledgement, and just closed the door behind him.
Smirking bastard.
At which point Quetz was like, I think they know we're coming. So the party had almost lost the element of surprise. They went up the stairs. As they went up the stairs, this is where things came full circle for the dagger. Dagger had spoken to Josh a couple of times during all this as well. Josh was still trying to get information, couldn't get it.
Mostly because the dagger didn't know.
And Critical Role, I only did this because I fucking love your characters and everything you do, so please don't slap me with the lawsuit. It was home thing and I've not actually recorded it, so there's no proof technically.
This is proof.
I'm filming the proof now.
Plead the fifth. Plead the fifth.
Two figures walked towards the party that had just come from another area. They looked almost like servants. One of them was a halfling, I think. The other one was a half-elf woman. She had a bow slung across her back. Kind of brownish hair. Quite tall, quite very like pretty looking. And as Quetz turned to look, pretty much through his eyes, the dagger just said one word. And that word was Vexalia. At which point, Jack smiled horrifically. It was amazing. And Josh lost his shit.
Yes, I did. I don't even care. It was so cool.
Unfortunately, James and Ryan don't watch Critical Role, so they were like, what?
I'd had suspicions up to this point who the dagger was. And Perry had literally said to me, he's like, oh, look, I could tell you who it is if you want. And I was like, don't. I want to find out organically. So he just kept fucking hinting at it.
So the dagger is a shard of... it's basically made out of kind of crushed down raven feathers. The dagger is a shard of Vax'ildan, who is Liam O'Brien's character in the first Critical Role campaign that they did. I think the story between Vax and Vex is phenomenal. Liam O'Brien is amazing. And I was just like, kind of want to put a little bit of homage in there and make you guys react in the way that you did, and it worked. So I was very happy with that. They walk into the room after this epiphany. They walk in. The door closes behind them. What does Sarth do, James?
Sarth isn't taking any chances and transforms into what has later been retconned, so it was obviously a print error at the time, a Elder Shadow Drake from one of the third-party expansions, because Perry was letting us use them, and was just now suddenly a very large dragon-like drake made of shadows from a shadow-like warlock.
I'm just going to say I'm so glad he did.
Yeah.
And almost didn't. How he almost fucked up everyone.
The
Yeah.
end of the corridor, or at the end of the room, it looked like a dining room that all the tables had been kind of pushed to the side. At the end, stood next to an altar in black gold robes. Stood Arcus. Arcus walks forward, gives them all a little bit of a villain speech. Can't remember what I exactly said at this point. At this point, we are in our live one, so we're sat in a room together.
In this room, ironically.
In the room that Josh is currently sat in. As he's talking, the face kind of flickers slightly. None of them pick up on it at first. There's no reaction from any of them. So I'm like, are you not understanding what I'm saying? So I carry on. I do it again. This time the face flickers, something in the hair changes. You see almost a more feminine look to the face, and it snaps back to Arcus. It was then the penny dropped. And the disappointment on everyone's faces.
I have never been blue balled so hard.
When they realized it wasn't Arcus. This member of the 8 was Irina, the third daughter of Anubis. Turns out she's an illusion specialist. So she summoned a pretty much exact kind of shadow illusion replica of every single member of the party. Lucky for the party, it wasn't a shadow replica of what Sarth had become. It was a shadow replica of Sarth. Had an interesting mechanic with this one. If they had crit any of them, which they didn't do until towards the end, but if they had crit any of them, it would have been an instant kill on the shadow image. Didn't happen until the last one.
Mechanics, woo!
Mechanics! So they basically fought themselves. I had their stats, their spells, their weapons, everything. They then defeated those, went into a room. In that room was kind of like a balcony area, and on that was 4 statues and Irina in the middle. She was surrounded by a shield. Shield was completely impenetrable. Nothing could go through it.
We tried lots.
They tried lots. Gunfar, what did you try?
I just tried hamster baller.
You tried to run at it.
Can we
Yeah.
appreciate what happened first, though? Because he ran at it in complete fucking magical darkness.
South thing he has like a...
We just lost Perry.
You did just lose me. I'm back. That was
Okay.
weird. The dragon had like a weird kind of spit thing that in the area that it landed created a sphere of magical darkness, which he did on the ball. She can see through magical darkness.
I also
Gunfar cannot.
thought it break the light that was giving her the shield, you know?
Yeah,
wasn't
it was a
your
very good attempt.
There
choices.
was logic there.
There really was, and it was well thought out, but no.
Perry thought ahead of it.
Gunfar thought, oh, maybe it's gone. Charged in. Impacted with the shield and was like, ow. Just basically pulling faces at her.
Through
Yeah.
the shield.
It went wonderfully. While the rest of them were actually doing something fairly useful. They figured that if they move the statues, the shield weakens until eventually it turns off. So they start moving the statues. Takes them a couple of rounds to do it, but eventually shield turns off. Meanwhile, Quetz is just fucking throwing insults left, right, and center, keeping her attention on him. This is what he claims is going to be happening. He was
So
like, well,
I
I kept her attention on me.
Yeah, because, right, Quetz, at this point, had a mace of, well, basically a berserker's mace. So every time I'd hit something, it'd have to pass I can't remember if it's an int or a wisdom save. Otherwise, it would only attack me for 3 rounds of combat. And the whole build I was going for at this point was, I'm not going to be doing a lot of damage. But by God, am I going to keep something's attention on me, focused on me, so the party can. And because I couldn't get to her, I thought, you know what? I'm pissed off. I've been blue-balled by the DM. I'm going to insult the boss. I have made a promise I won't ever do it again. I won't, because the next character isn't like that.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't believe me.
Sure.
No, he doesn't. He isn't.
You'll forget that immediately.
I absolutely won't. I've been threatened. It's fine. And I was absolutely keeping her attention on me because she spent the whole fight beating my ass. And I have to say beating my ass because it was very one-sided.
It was.
It was incredibly one-sided. I will.
She
didn't
took a
like
lot
me.
to take down. She took a lot to take down, but eventually, Sarth came out of his dragon form. They tried everything. And eventually she had a Hail Mary that she released at the end, which was an illusionary dragon. But the illusionary dragon was real enough that it would have done damage if they hadn't killed her before the dragon could have done something. It was her Hail Mary, but it was too late. So they killed her. They ripped her wings off because she was winged. She bamfed out wings when they first met her.
She was
And they
flying,
were
which
like,
is why I couldn't reach her.
oh shit, yep. So with the fighting going down underneath their little balcony, they basically bring up her body. The wings, fighting stops. Where am I?
In Fairwatch.
Yeah,
Half
no.
making his
Mounted wings. Everybody surrendered. Someone shot the guy with the sash because he was like not surrendering.
That was me.
It was you. You shot the guy with the sash. There was her staff was given to Sarth. You also got the formula, which she had on her for those potions. There was a sword and a pendant as well. The soldiers were basically all killed. Sarth became rather sad because, well, why was Sarth sad?
Darth, while evil, still has to follow laws that any of his promises or word to be kept must try to be enacted or repercussions. So luckily there was a few who survived that he could at least offer the chance of redemption of that new life. None of them took it, and he fed them to his bag of holding, which is now just a pile of corpses, including, the lovely 8, but at least he tried. No repercussions.
No repercussions. What happened to Quetz during that time, Josh?
Well, afterwards, Sarth and Quetz had a disagreement because these were soldiers that had willingly done what they'd done, and in Quetz's eyes, they were evil, and they were the people he was there to destroy effectively. And the fact Sarth was willing to even give them a chance was completely at ends with Quetz. Quetz would have happily strung them all up and pinned their bodies to the fort walls as a sign to never, ever try it again, or this is what would happen. And Sarth disagreed with that. So Quetz got kidnapped in Sarth's bag of holding, which I was not happy about.
No.
It didn't last long because the other people were like, "No, let him out." I was like, "I can't take you all on and live."
So
Only
it
because you were out of
was,
spell slots.
yeah, like you were all drained by the end of that fight. Like drained.
I'd actually done a short rest. I did each piece Sarth had. He had.
Easily the hardest
41.
fight we'd done all campaign.
Sarth had a lot more than I thought.
You were then told to nap. So you did. When you woke up in the morning, you'd stayed in the fort. When you woke up in the morning, the supply ship had landed and was helping out. You had basically messaged through the stone that you had with Zathara to come pick you up. She comes and picks you up. Sarth decides to stay as he has his own goals to follow and accomplish. And Ryan was also talking to me about, like, I've kind of had an idea for somebody that I really want to do. Can I potentially retire Gunfar? So I was like, if you want to, that's absolutely fine.
Temporarily. He will.
Temporarily. Gunfar will be back, and I can't wait. So they get on the ship. They leave South behind. Quetz is not bothered by this in the slightest. They're flying for like about a day, and they notice over the side a group of giants that are basically hunting these kind of
You said
Oh,
they were like
gigantic
giant
elk. Yeah. Think of is it
Giant moose,
Eikther?
weren't they?
Is it Eikther from Norse
Valheim.
mythology?
And yeah, like the
Yeah,
deer
like
god.
basically, yeah, Eikther, the deer, kind of like that. Giant horns. Without second guessing it, Zathara kind of sees what's going to happen. She lowers the ship slightly to a point where it's not going to kill him. And what happens, Ryan?
So Gunfar, obviously being a Path of the Giants barbarian, when he rages, grows into a little giant, we'll call it. So what does he do? Jumps off the side of the ship, rages, and becomes a plummeting little giant comet, and elbow drops clean through the neck of one of these giant elk that had another giant cornered, detaching its head from its body, and literally doing a superhero landing.
It was amazing. It was the only way that I can see someone like Gunfire kind of going out. It was the perfect kind of retirement bit for it. And Ryan and I had been like, right, let's do this. And it was kind of, I didn't tell you everything, did I? It was a bit of a surprise and let you kind of do what you wanted to with it. But that was then Gunfire gone. So we were now down to 2. This is where my unimagination comes in. We have to get
Portal!
2 more people back.
Portal,
So
portal,
we
portal.
portal it. First one to come through. Portal opens up in front of the ship. Out flies what, James?
This
A
is so cool.
radiant Dragneel. I'm working on homebrew campaign. Perry is letting me test a lovely class called Dragon Rider. And upon the Dragneel, there just happens to be a lion man who
A little
looks
fight ensues.
awfully like Zadar when he's finally caught up close.
A little fight ensues. Some damage is taken. This Dragon Eel and this Leonin fly over the ship. This is when the first little hint of power from Zathara comes out, because
is
they
so
get
cool.
above the deck, and Zathara she basically Darth Vader's him. She just holds out a hand and just the Dragon Eel freezes and is held in place. There was no save for it. It just happened. She brings it down. She basically takes him off of the ship. She goes round to see who it is. These guys don't know. I know who this is. And she goes, Zadar? At which point these 3 fucking lose their mind.
Yes! We were like, what the fuck?
They all come over. There's a conversation. Basically, I'll shorten it because we've gone on for a lot longer than what I thought we were going to. This Zadar is from an alternate reality. This alternate reality, the elves didn't realize the error of their ways and went even more tyrannical. They have basically become what the humans are in this Teraann. Zadar is the same Zadar. He just fights for the humans. The 8 have been created, but the 8 are viewed as saviors or heroes, basically. James Zadar is not a Lord General. He does have his own kind of backstory, which we are definitely going to be exploring a little bit more. But essentially, elves are bad, humans are good. He's now in an alternate reality where things are flipped. There's a lovely bit of roleplay of like trying to convince that it's safe, but needs to be sort of like, you need time to adjust. That's fine. We'll take you to somewhere. You're going to freak out a little bit, but we'll be with you. We will help. There's no real trust between him and Zathara, but it's kind of growing. They travel on for a couple more days, and a tear opens in the sky. This is like a red tear. Out plummets what, Ryan?
Well, a human, which obviously we're in a world where humans aren't the good guys, are we?
No.
This human is very unconscious, splats onto the deck, and from this crack descends a Cambion and a Balgora who are hot on his ass after the human, whose name is Yuki, tore his way out of the Nine Hells after being there for the past 880 years. Obviously, he'd been magically altered with demonic magic for his aging to be slowed. So he was actually there from before the war, before the humans took over. And yeah, similar thing happened to what happened with James. That fight off the demons, and then Zafara did scary things.
What happened to the Bulgara, Josh?
I did paladin things.
No, wrong. Paladin.
Incorrect paladin things.
Fuck you guys. I did a one-turn KO to it. I crit it, and did I crit it twice? Or was it just the once?
Just the once, but it was enough.
So with paladins, when you crit, you divine smite, but because it was a fiend, I got extra damage dice on my smite, and also I pumped my smite into it, and then that doubled, and I did pally nuke things. I used a lot of spell slots, which we now know I can't do, but it's fine, everyone fucks it up. And Perry was
Exactly.
expecting the Balgora to be a difficult part of the fight, and I killed it in less than 1 round. I did a paladin thing when faced with a fiend. I hit it with mace. Mace went boom. Balgora went bigger boom. It was fun.
Yuki brought it back.
Yes, that was weird.
No, Yuki summoned a new one.
Ah. That was it. There was a little bit of interaction between you guys, but it was just kind of well, Zathara's like, well, I now have a human on my ship. You gave some of your backstory. She was like, well, you know, technically you've done nothing wrong. You're actually kind of more of a victim here. So we'll take you to where we're going, and we'll let the Lord General deal with you. At which point, Zadar and Yuki didn't know that it was another Zadar. So let that bit out. You arrive closer to the city, and I flip things on their head. From the city is smoke. They get closer. There are ships leaving and coming in. And they get closer, and they can smell some not very nice smells on the wind. More smoke rising. Not the kind of normal color flames. Some greeny, some purple-ish. And as they get closer, they can see that the pretty much entirety of the lower ring of the city has been destroyed. Middle ring has taken some damage, and the upper ring, mainly focused around the palace, has been attacked. They immediately think, shit. We went off to do this, and the humans did a counterattack. They get into the city, they land, try and ask some questions. No one really has any answers for them, and they can see that the smoke piles are both buildings, and the odd-coloured flames are coming from burning body piles. They go to the teleporter, which they normally use to get up to Zadar. The tree's been destroyed. They have to take the long way. They walk through town, walk past Pekka's, hear voices from inside, decide to pop in just to check on the old man, see if he's okay. Turns out he is okay, and he's actually doing something noble. He's set up a little bit of a triage in his shop. They unfortunately don't get any information from him because whatever attacked the city, he slept through.
Typical Pekka.
Typical Pekka. They continue on. They get to the gates of the inner ring, where they meet an elderly, but yet quite beautiful elven woman. They have a conversation. They find out she's a member of the council. They explain why they're here and what they've just done. She's very nice to them. She tells the guards to open the gates. They thank her. They proceed to Zadar's. Getting to Zadar's, part of his fencing has been destroyed. His beautifully well-kept garden is practically in tatters. And the fountain that he has basically been destroyed and is just kind of leaking. They get up to the house. Windows are smashed. Door is looking damaged. At which point Zathara is with them. She panics ever so slightly and kind of runs to the door. Bangs on it. There's a moment. The door kind of creeps open. And then opens quite quickly to Winona basically just grabbing Zathara and hugging her. It's a nice little moment with them, which I have to act out myself because it's two NPCs.
You did it beautifully, though, I will say.
Zathara and Winona embrace. Like, I'm so glad you're safe. Winona is like, she's got a black eye. She's got some cuts on her face. She very clearly fought. Zathara takes her inside. They sit down on a chair. And then the most beautiful roleplay moment just suddenly comes into being. Something that hadn't crossed my mind was James Zadar is Zadar. So potentially things would have been the same. James, what went through your head at that point?
I went through my head because the elves, they're magic, they're more stronger. Because he gave me some spoilers before the law, so I was like, okay, they're basically worse than the humans. I was like, it's very likely that my version of Winona died during the war. And I just went with finally being able to see like her grow old, just broke down a proud warrior.
And it was it's weird because I can't I can't put it into words because I didn't think of it. And then the moment it happened, I was like, oh shit.
It's a good thing we were drama students with improv.
Yeah.
I will say, at least from my point of view, don't know if the other guys will agree, it felt natural. Like, we had
It
no
really
idea
did.
you guys hadn't planned that. We thought you'd planned that.
No,
That's how good
not
it
at
felt.
all.
Like, it was beautiful.
It was like it was the most beautiful moment because it was suddenly a oh shit, he's for me as me, it was like, oh, he's gone down this path. Okay, I'm not ruining this. So we just went along with the lines of she was shocked by it, but she saw your face, she knew who you were, and it was like a well, I'm here. And it was between me and James, who have been friends for practically our entire lives. It was a lovely little moment because it was just like, right, bounce off each other, worked really, really well. I think we then took a break because I was like, I need a minute because that was fucking damn. Winona walked them up to Zadar, who was, instead of how he normally greets them, he's kind of stands and talks with them for a little bit. Then they sit down. He stayed sat. And I think they all knew something was wrong. Winona goes up to him and she kind of adjusts him and adjusts the chair slightly so he's kind of facing a little bit more towards them. They all approach and they can see that he is battered and bruised. He's old. So he's still able to fight because he's knocked them on their asses. But at that point, they were low level. So he's fallen a little bit behind the times. And he's got an affliction that is going up one of his arms. Quetz attempts some healing
I blow
and reduces
everything.
it. Yeah, pretty much blows everything
I
and reduces
did
it.
every spell slot, every lay on hands pool. Considering I had a long rest at this point, I had everything. And I said to
Damn.
Perry, I want to... Because Quetz's character, yes, he wanted to destroy the evil, but it was... You can't let someone like Zadar fall behind because without him, you wouldn't have the Silver Star. And he is an honourable man, honourable warrior, and he deserves better. So Quetz blew every bit of healing he had.
Quetz blew everything on that, and it basically did nothing.
Considering what we were 7th level at this point?
Yeah,
Level 7.
this is what you are now.
I don't have a massive amount of spell slots, but paladins have good healing, and especially every bit of lay on hands. It was a lot.
It did reduce it. This like affliction that it had, it reduced it, but maybe by like 0.5 centimeter. So it was at this point, Josh and I have been discussing that he did want to potentially retire Quetz,
Didn't want him to die.
to
though.
bring in a character that he had thought up and really wanted to use. So I was like, absolutely fine. I was like, this is how you can do it. So Quetz then decided I can probably do some more stuff with the city at this point. Me going out adventuring and doing stuff is not where I'm needed. So Quetz kind of leaves, goes off to help the city, but pledges to Zadar that he will come back like every day to do what he can to help with this affliction. They chat with Zadar before Quetz leaves about what had happened. Zadar was happy with them, gave them some money, told them... Shit, what are you jumping into now?
So
Where have I sent you?
it was the Grand Vampire, for want of a better phrase, that we'd fought before. He
Yeah.
had led an attack on the city in an attempt to kidnap one of the royalties.
Prince.
Prince.
Was
I
the
think it
prince. And they'd managed to repulse the attack, but the damage to the city had been unprecedented because we'd found what we thought was his lair when we found that little girl. But it turned out that wasn't. That was only one of his lairs. They'd infested the entire lower ring, which is why the entire lower ring was lost. There was a lot of casualties.
Yeah. The
Because,
entire city basically then had to fight themselves because it was an army of undead.
and it was the lower ring was the most densely populated as well, wasn't it?
Most densely populated, technically the poorest, even though there is no like poverty or poorness. But it's where like the factories and stuff are. Still a very kind of beautiful part. It's still an elven city, so it's not industrialized. But it is where kind of the majority of the populace are. It's the capital city. Middle ring is kind of shops, main barracks, middle class people, temples, that sort of stuff. And then the upper ring is the nobility and higher ups. There's a small garrison based in the lower ring. Before they knew what was happening, they were overrun. They then spread into the middle ring, and the middle ring managed to, with the main force of the garrison, push them back. They thought they had done it, but it had already spread. At which point they had to call in reinforcements from surrounding cities and outposts. They held them off, but in that distraction, this vampire, who revealed himself to be a master vampire by the name of Eliath, took the prince. Only one person, no, both James and Ryan got it. And Josh was like, I feel like I know that name. And they both kind of looked at him like, are you dumb?
The answer to that
They were
question is
like,
yes.
That's Perry's first character from the Anne Lemmer campaign,
Who totally didn't get turned into a vampire.
who totally didn't get turned into a vampire. So he's abducted the prince. Zadar needs him taken. They have recently captured another human. It's really weird because I was talking with someone the other day. I think it was Jack. Obviously, I've said no humans, and at no point do people go into D&D and go, "Ooh, I want to play a human," and now all of a sudden I have two of them as my players.
Mine is a variant, and so is
You're both variant humans, but you are still humans. You are humans with a technicality.
yeah, but you love
That is what you
love
are.
the idea, which is why you let it fly.
I love both the ideas. That's why I let them fly.
Ryan's is fucking cool, I will say. I love Ryan's as well.
They've captured a human who has had some interesting stories surrounding him, but he may know where the lair of Eliath is. If they can make a deal with him, Zadar is happy to honor it, as long as they get the prince back. They head down into the jail, at which point they hear some god-awful singing and a guard getting very shitty. They round the corner. What do they see?
So they see a mid-30s man with kind of very straggly shoulder-length hair that looks like it should be kind of like a golden blonde, but is very unkempt, very dirty, very down on his luck. He looks incredibly inebriated and looks like he hasn't been sober for a long time. If he stood up, he'd be quite tall, but he is not in good shape. He is very looks almost ill with how he is.
What's his name?
His name is Jack, which is confusing because of Jack, but his actual name is Jack of Tales. So for those of you who have maybe read the Fable comics, or the Fables comics, you can absolutely see the absolute rip-off, and I apologise, but it's such a cool concept. So Jack is a human. He is a bard. He isn't from Teraann. He is from another plane. He was kidnapped by the humans because throughout his whole life, Jack had made stories. How he'd climbed a beanstalk, stole a goose that laid golden eggs, how he was a giant slayer, how he'd absconded with a princess up a hill where there was a magic well. Things like that, things that would almost be fairy tale like. And all these stories surrounded him, and he'd woven them almost into this kind of patchwork quilt of his life. But all of them, every single last one of them, was a barefaced lie. Not a single thing that left his mouth was truth. He was scouted as such because of this, because of these fantastical stories of these great deeds the humans imagined a man of this caliber would be able to win the war for Anubis with nary an effort. And then they found him and kidnapped him and realised he was a layabout drunkard who was washed up on life, who had no aspirations, and who was nothing like the stories could say.
They find him in a cell, pissing off a guard with his singing.
It was so fun!
They have a conversation where they try and outwit each other with bartering of information for information.
I come
Some
out on
tempers
top.
fly.
100%
Some tempers
came out on
fly
top.
because things are not discussed properly. But I'm not in this scene. I'm just watching.
So
I don't have any input.
They asked for the name of the town, and they said, if you give me the name of the place, they will let me free. So I messaged Perry, what's the name of it? He messaged me back, except because of the naming conventions of the elves, pretty much every town starts with the same two letters and ends with the same two letters. So I went, okay, how about this? I'll give you half of the name now when you let me out, and then I'll give you the second half of the name. And they were like, okay, yeah, we'll agree to that. Shook on it, did the whole thing. So I gave them the first two letters and the last two letters. And
Just Anne and N.
Technically, it's half the name. They were very not happy with me, but then they realised it was half the
Actually,
name.
it is exactly half the name.
That's why I did it, because it was 8 letters long, and I went, I'm going to give them 4 letters, so there is no way out of this technicality. Faye deals. Because Jack...
Without a Faye.
Is he, though? So, Jack is...
He's really not.
Jack is a variant human, and he's one of those that if you look at him dead on, looks human. But if you catch him out the corner of your eye, something seems almost fuzzy about him. Something just seems off. Not quite right. And then when you look at him, it's normal, but it's one of those you can never quite tell what it is out the corner of your eye.
Dun dun dun.
So I got out. They were not happy with me, but true to my word, because he may be many things, but he does have a kind of twisted, warped sense of honour, and if he gives his word, he will stick to it. He gave them the full name, and then proceeded to steal a guard's belt.
I forgot about that.
I didn't. The guard had sucker punched me, so I stole his belt as he walked off.
You collect your stuff. You learn that the city that you need to go to is basically Ansharis's sister city, called Anfarin. And we left it off because we had a little break. I needed some time to prep some more stuff. So James took over for a little bit. Then somebody got married. Then they went on honeymoon. So this Saturday will be our kind of jump back into the Teraann campaign. It will be starting off with our party walking up the stairs back to Zadar's balcony, basically. So, does anybody else have anything to add at this point?
No, I think that was pretty comprehensive.
Let's say, how long has it been, Josh?
2 hours, 49 minutes, and 4 seconds.
Jesus Christ! I said, oh yeah, no more than half hour.
He's a liar.
I am a
You're
liar.
a liar and a cheat, and you'll spend eternity on my ship.
Above board. Sorry for giving Perry a stronger CR vampire.
That's fine. It's fine.
I'm not, but
It's going to be cool because,
Not him you have to worry about.
yeah. But the thing is, I normally build characters for combat, and Jack is built entirely for RP. Combat, I'm going to be fucking useless, pretty much. But give me an
you
RP
have
situation.
inspiration. You go hit that guy real good. Okay, boss.
Yes,
Bardic inspiration is only going to be used on.
College of Swords Bard, because Jack's so. Little bit of a slight fib on Jack when I said he had no aspirations. He now has one after being taken by the humans and discarded. It made him realise how useless he was. So Jack's goal now is to have a fable, but to have a fable that's actually true. And he wants to have a story sung about him that has its truth. So to that end, he will join the party, do what needs to be done, take his petty revenge, because it is petty revenge against the people, against the humans, who slighted him so. And in doing so, make a song about the party that is sung for decades to come and joins the annals of time as the best songs around.
Nice. So we have our 4 characters, which is Jack of Tails, Isamu, Yuki, and Zadar 2.
Zadar Jr.
James, unfortunately, little Zadar Jr. Hopefully, James is feeling a little bit better by Saturday, because there's a reason why he hasn't got his camera on. One, he has to stream it because his camera and PC don't like each other.
No,
But
his
2,
board doesn't like it.
not feeling very well, so obviously isn't going to be on like the rest of us. But with that all said, obviously was a very, very long video, and I do apologize. There is a lot of lore information in there, and I do not expect anybody watching to completely remember it. Because I'll be fucked if I do, and it's my fucking world.
This is
I have
why we
Jack.
have
This is
Jack.
why I've got him. But I recommend definitely watching this one first, and then joining us on Saturday for the live play of. If not, it will be uploaded to YouTube on the Tuesday. Give it a little watch. Give us a little like. Comment on some things that you like. Comment on some things that you think that we can do better. Like, constructive criticism is always better than going, you guys are shit.
We know we're shit. We don't need to tell
We
you.
know we're shit. We don't need other people telling us. It's just the way that we are. But if you have anything that you want to say, then by all means, please leave us a comment. We will respond. We'll like it. We'll do whatever you can. Share it around with people. We just want to put out some like fun stuff, and hopefully we can. Also, again, no, I'm mentioning this, but it's never going to happen. Critical Role, if you are watching this, please don't sue us. Love your content. Mr. Mercer, you are wonderful. The rest of you guys are brilliant. D&D is about... Huh?
Travis Stan.
Yeah. D&D is about sharing content. So I don't really know how you can copyright someone for sharing something that's supposed to be out there, but, people do weird things. So yeah, join us on Saturday. If not, join us on Tuesday. Thank you ever so much for watching. Good night.